by time.piss.
Tenacity.
Is there a .piss domain?
I think
I
we've already
really
I think we've
heavily-
looked this up.
I think you're right.
Heavily doubt it.
Yeah, I'm 100% sure that was.
If you type in "is there .piss," the first search things that it wants to do are: is there a piss in beer? Is there piss in cigarettes?
Oh,
Is there bull piss in energy drinks?
what?
Is there cat piss in
Oh,
cigarettes?
everyone
Is there
knows
possum
taurine
piss
is
in butter?
Possum?
Bull semen is taurine.
And then the final one on my that came up was: is there a gem in Pissouri? Which I assume is a town.
A gem?
a gym.
Gym.
Oh, gym.
Oh,
okay.
gem. I heard gem too, and I was
Yeah.
like,
Like Jim
it sounds
Guthrie.
like a JRPG quest or
Does
something.
Does Jim Guthrie live in Pasuri?
Oh,
Fuck.
You know what? Fuck it. When our conversation about what fucking game did Jim Guthrie work on?
Super Brothers.
Super Brothers. My neighbor when I was a wee babe, his name was Jim Guthrie, and he taught me how to tie my shoes. So like hearing anyone talk about Jim Guthrie, I'm like, what the who? What?
Great composer.
That's such a weird
He was
association.
really good
though.
at tying shoes.
I'm
Guthrie
pretty
also did,
positive I taught myself to tie my shoes because my parents were like, oh, well, you can't get these light up shoes unless you know how to tie your shoes. And I was like, okay, I'm learning right now.
Uh-huh.
That's
Light
what.
up shoes, baller.
I never went to like preschool or anything, and then I lived in like the sticks, so I had no friends until I went to elementary school. So I just hung out with like old hippies.
You know that
And
doesn't
so
surprise
they taught
me.
they taught me how to tie my shoes.
Jim Guthrie did the music for Planet
And-
Coaster.
Huh.
I didn't know
Okay.
that.
Oh, I did know that
Also-
actually.
That's
Huh.
that
Family
joke
had-
from like the John Mulaney joke about Back to the Future where they don't address why Marty McFly's like best friend is an old man.
Yeah, I also
Like a straight
had
Grace musically or physicist. You're like,
5 dogs, 2 cats, 2 frogs, 2 horses.
2
I
frogs.
lost the thread. I think I was
They
looking at
were
Jim
2
Guthrie's
ponies.
Wikipedia.
Yeah, 2 frogs. They were like a gift, and we got them as like eggs, and they became tadpoles. Then they were frogs, and we called them Woody and Buzz because I was like,
aw.
I was a wee child, nigh 4 summers old.
We should clap. I'm not going to restart my recording because there's too much
Okay.
in there. That's
Okay.
worthwhile.
I wasn't recording. so-
25?
Oh, God damn it.
Oh, okay.
20 minutes. I'm recording now.
25, 30?
Okay.
That's a weird looking waveform.
Same.
It'll be
Yeah.
fine for syncing, but it's like I got like this weird little curve off of it.
That's not how sound works.
Oh.
Or it
I
shouldn't
know,
be.
that's why I said it's weird looking.
Yeah. I'm looking forward to that.
Yeah.
All right. So how are we starting this? We want to start with news.
We could do that.
Yeah, that'd be fine.
We
Okay.
could talk about the sexual assault stuff or abuse stuff if we wanted to, and then go back, like circle back.
Yeah, because that's probably
whatever.
more important.
Whatever works for y'all. I personally, I've got like personal stuff going on, so it's hard for me to find the energy to talk about it personally with this stuff. But I'm happy to start with it if like anyone has anything they particularly want to tackle first.
I don't know that we need to talk. I mean, I'll defer to everyone else, but I don't know that we need to talk about it at the same lengths that Giant Bomb did. I mean, I think support for victims is the most important thing to get across, because we don't have personal connections to people.
Right.
And a lot of like not our stories to tell. And
Exactly.
stuff
So
like that,
I'm certainly comfortable starting off and saying like, we've seen allegations from leveled at people like Chris Avallone and Ashraf Ismail, and I don't even know how to pronounce Andrian's last name. I just realized.
Andrian Binahi.
Okay. If we want to touch on like, we've seen those allegations, we believe the victims, but I don't know that we have to talk about it for 20 minutes or whatever.
Mm-hmm. Okay.
I need to hop up for just a second, then start.
Okay, take off your headphones so we can talk about that.
Okay,
So Last of Us.
That made my frame rate dive.
Oh yeah.
Oh wait, we're actually recording this, so I probably shouldn't. But it involves a lot of fire.
Okay, yeah.
A lot.
The part with the horse involved a lot of fire.
It did.
You should have thrown more horsepower at it.
Fuck. You got there.
Oh God, Allison, so he said that in the chat, and so I messaged him when I got to I was like, maybe that did it. I'm on a pro, so I didn't notice. I noticed right after the scene with Isaac, I had some frame rate stuff, right after. I was like, that can't be it. But I didn't notice anything with the scene you're talking about. But yeah, so Alex said that, and I messaged him like, is it the horse scene? And he goes, not exactly. I'm like, damn, because I was going to say, should have thrown more horsepower at it. And then he's like, oh, wait, okay, let's do it again.
Yeah, I granted Andre a mulligan and then lied to him and said, yes, that is what it was. And he made his joke and was very pleased.
Nailed it.
Yep.
Very good. Very good.
Again, this was Last of Us spoilers, so
I can tell you the punchline of the joke, and you'll be like, I don't get it. And it's, he should have thrown more horsepower at it.
Okay.
Anyways.
Someday that'll make sense.
Someday.
I'll have a moment. I'll be crushingly depressed and then understand the joke and go, oh, things aren't so bad.
You'll quickly exhale from your nose, be like, huh, and then carry on.
Like a horse would.
A swift whinny.
God. A swift whinny should probably be the title of this podcast. But you said it before the show started, so.
Yeah. All right. Well, all right. We ready?
Mm-hmm.
Is this really 127? I believe you. Okay. Hello and welcome to Gaming Fix, episode 127 on June 27th, 2020. We're halfway there, people. I am your host, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite onomatopoeia. Joining me today is Pat.
It's like we're halfway through it feels like we're halfway through the decade, not just the year. And it's only been 6 months, and we've only been here for 6 months.
Some people would say this isn't even the start of the decade. They're wrong.
Well, those people are wrong, and we're not going to entertain that on the show.
But they would say that. Joining us, hot from the previous decade, Alex.
Hell yeah. My onomatopoeia is a swift whinny.
And also joining us, the swiftest of whinnies, Allison.
Did you guys just ever think about what you were doing just a couple months ago and go, oh, what a quaint time we lived in?
Frankly, just a couple months ago, I was doing largely the same thing that I'm doing now.
What, existential despair?
That,
that's
sitting
me.
At home.
Yeah.
I've gone to protests since then, but aside from that, I was pretty mad then too. So,
well, I guess what I'm doing is an improvement. I'm not stuck at home. I don't know. Weirdness. So today, before we get started, we wanted to once again draw your attention to the news that has been rampaging. I don't even know, just boiling throughout the gaming industry and other industries as well. News of racism, sexual allegations, and just general terribleness. And we want to say we stand with people who have been affected by this, or the people who have been affected by the abuse, not the people affected by the allegations.
Right. Yeah.
Just to be clear. And we hope to see a change in the industry, and that hopefully things improve. It's a long never-ending battle, but hopefully this is the start of some greater change. These are tumultuous times.
Yeah, that's what I've been thinking about a lot with reading a lot of these allegations recently. Is on the one hand, it's terrible that these things are happening, but on the other, I'm glad that we're at a place right now where people feel they can speak out and be heard about it. So I'm just hopeful that this can lead to larger change.
Yeah, I would agree with that. And
yeah,
I'm going to try and phrase this in as sensitive a way as possible, not to be misconstrued, but I am glad that the past week happened. Same with the Black Lives Matter protests. I'm glad that they happened. I'm not glad for the reasons behind them, for the reasons they had to happen. But the fact that they have come out so strongly and been impetus for change means that momentum can go forward, and we can look back on those as a point which could have started something bigger.
And I think I've taken a pessimistic view in the past when these things come up, which is, they're coming up again. Are they ever going to stop coming up? And one, the answer is probably no. But two, one thing I think, I'm trying to look at the ways in which things, and like you're saying, Alex, it's hard to talk about this stuff without it being misconstrued. But this time around, I think we're seeing a lot more examples of people who have been assaulted or physically abused from all this has been happening too. But I think the fact that there has also been light shed on people who are emotionally abusive and gaslighting and stuff like that is important, because it feels like 10 years ago, the answer would have been, that's not real abuse from lots of the community, even among people who today understand that those are forms of abuse that are also in a different way harmful and need to be called out, and those abusers need to be held accountable too. So I think that is a way in which this sort of round of these things coming out has been encouraging, as awful as it is that it has to happen, has been the deserved legitimacy that those forms of abuse have been treated with this time around has been encouraging for change, I think, to potential change, because I think there's a lot of people who are learning that in part because of the fact that so many of the private communications between people are becoming public. There's an example, you can point to these things now, these examples, as awful as they are, and say, this is what emotional abuse looks like. So if there is someone talking to you like this in your life, or if you are talking to people like this in your life, that is an example of that. And it just, I think, hopefully gives people a wider vocabulary to see this behavior in their friends and maybe even in themselves, and course correct more, which is how change happens, as awful and painful as it is for the people who have been affected.
Yeah, very much so. Sorry, go for it, Andre.
There still needs to be like a reckoning for many of these people.
That's part two.
Streamers, especially, because they're not really accountable to anyone. Yep. Like, they're their own thing until someone like Twitch or YouTube decides to crack down on these people for this stuff. And in some cases they are. It's hard to say when they are or not, because maybe they aren't saying anything. Maybe we'll talk about the Dr. Disrespect stuff later, but no one knows what's going on with that. But like, is that related? Maybe, maybe not.
And I think,
but like some developers are doing a good job of trying to address this, like Techland and like other companies that are been recently associated with Chris Avallone have been like, he's not working on this project anymore. We have cut him from it. He's still, his writing and stuff is still heavily influenced in some of these games, but at least they're saying, okay, no, he's not on this anymore. We're taking him off.
Yeah. To continue with what Pat was kind of getting at, and being able to look back at what has happened over the past week or two, maybe more, but the past week or two has kind of been like the boiling point. You have examples of people writing down very thorough thoughts with very explicit calls to what happened and when, often providing context and multiple corroborations between multiple people. And the thing is, like, that happens. That's probably been happening for years. Doing it publicly is extremely difficult because you suddenly have eyes on things that you don't generally want to share with others at the best of times, and now you're sharing it publicly. So I think the fact that those artifacts now exist and the people were brave enough to do it in the first place is something which should be appreciated.
Absolutely.
I personally am not going to call their names up because I think it's difficult enough to have done that on their part that if people want to look for them, they can. But, it's tough. I think it's much more important to say that the people that were often called out in those posts, in those writings, in however you want to phrase it, were people who were in positions of power. And they were using those positions of power as, in pretty abhorrent ways.
Yep.
So you have your Chris Avalons, Ashraf Ishmael, Andy Binahi, like all these people, they were called out by name. And I think that's very important because they need to be held accountable. And up until this point, it was really hard to, because people felt they couldn't. Like, they would speak to their HR, but what happens when your HR person is the one doing the abusing?
Yep.
Then
and HR is not generally there to help employees. It's there to protect the company.
It's often to just help the company. Yeah.
Exactly. So the fact that these people are coming out and, like, in a time when the economy is not particularly stable, potentially putting their livelihood on the line, as well as, reputations and all this kind of stuff. And the fact that people are coming out of the woodwork to support them, I find that, I think that is extremely important and something we should stand behind.
Yeah. Many of these people were driven out of the industry because of these incidents. It's had a material effect on, these people's lives. They've not been able to continue either because they rebuked these advances and basically were blackballed by these people in power, or they're just like, I can't be here anymore because of what happened, which is really awful. But hopefully this allows things, draws more attention to it, makes it clear that this is not okay to more people.
Yeah.
And companies are willing to take more of a stand.
I think it'll be interesting, feels like the wrong word to use, but I am curious to see, largely because I don't have all the answers for this stuff, where we go with someone like Chris Avalon in the future. It's interesting. You see the disparity. Avalon came out and, like, basically just sort of admitted to all of this stuff and gave kind of it's hard to know what sincerity is on Twitter, so, like, I don't know that the apology that he gave in one tweet doesn't really necessarily mean anything, and it certainly doesn't mean anything for the people he's hurt. But I don't know what that looks like if he goes to therapy and rehab and works on himself for the next 10 years. Like, I don't know what the long-term answer for a lot of this stuff is, but I do know that there are also people, to your point, Alex, like Andy Binahi, that put together a frankly bullshit looking, like, defense and denial. It was, with, like, photoshopped messages and shit.
That was bizarre.
It was kind of disgusting too, because it turned into victim blaming.
Of course, yeah, and I think it exemplifies what you're talking about with people in positions of power, Alex, where these are often people who have never. This is what they've always done, and we're seeing it publicly. But that kind of immediate turn and victim blaming that happens privately. And the people around the person in power go, makes sense to me, sorry. And they just go with that without interrogating it at a deeper level in a lot of professional environments, because it's easier for everyone around them to sweep it under the rug and accept that as the truth rather than actually do the work of supporting the victims. So, yeah.
And I mean, that's not new either. We've known about Randy Pitchford for years.
Yep, exactly.
And I think hopefully there is a reckoning of some form coming with this. I hope there's positive change.
Yeah.
And I think on a what you can do, this is an instance where, you know, if you call out your friend's shitty behavior,
right,
and call out when you see, I think, I don't know anyone who has ever done anything that I know of that is I've never seen behavior at the levels that we're seeing in these allegations among my friends, because I certainly would have called it out. But I think even I can do a better job of saying, hey, that joke sucks, instead of letting it go. And I think
or
that's
just
something
even
that,
like, even just publicly saying, you know, hey, I support the victims in this is it can be really, really good, because I know that, like, on a very personal note, when I saw our own Twitter post something about that, it made me like kind of emotional, because I knew like, I mean, I knew this already, but just seeing that, like, you know, as a woman in who's like, you know, does a gaming podcast, a lot of times people can be kind of crummy. I haven't had a lot of experiences with that, like, directly, but, you know, knowing that you guys would be there for me is just like made such a big, you know, like, made me emotional, even though I knew that, like, logically that you guys would, obviously, but I don't know. It can make a lot of difference.
100%. Where, you know, we want to be a space where people feel welcome, and so hopefully we continue to build that trust with people.
Yeah, and straight up, if anyone feels we aren't, call us out.
Mm-hmm.
Like, yeah. I think accountability goes both ways. I think
absolutely.
Like, we should be able to call people out, but we should also be able to accept criticism. So if any listener we ever has feels that we need to be criticized for something, call us out. We'll listen.
Yep.
Right. And I think that, I mean, I don't want to speak for all of us, but I feel like I can, in that, you know, becoming better is always a process. And I know that all of us do want to become better people. Like, it's you know, it's a constant thing, and hopefully that these actions that have been going on will be good for the industry, but also hopefully we can, as people in a podcast, keep moving in a positive direction.
Well,
agreed.
How about we make the impossible pivot to Pokemon Cafe Mix?
Oh God. Really?
That's where you go?
Andre.
the most impossible pivot. Not to make light of, you know, the previous discussion, but you know, this is the hottest new release.
I think, okay, before we actually make the pivot, it should be worth saying a lot of us have been steeped in this for, like, not just this. It's been the pandemic. It's been the racial equality movements. Everything has been really, it's been draining, and like on top of all stuff the past week. So I think it is good to still have some levity and pivot. That's why we are continuing to do the podcast.
I know the past couple months have been kind of tough. So I do really enjoy having this podcast, and I hope that people who listen have that too, where that they can enjoy just kind of something, you know, some levity.
Anything.
And I think like the concept of ally fatigue is like laughable to me in so many ways. So and I don't think that's what anybody here is saying, but at the same time, there definitely, I think, some levity and some fun is, it's not necessarily sustainable to just be in misery 24/7 for months at a time.
Especially since this has already been what a year it's been in the past 2 months.
365, 2020. That's the promise.
Yeah. Not to
wait, is this a leap year? Was 366 this year?
Yes, it was.
Not to get deep. Not to get deep into another podcast, but my partner and I have been listening to Mabim Bam for some of that levity again, and my brother and me, and they name their years every year with a big long episode at the end of the previous year, and they're like, what are we going to call 2020? And recently they did an episode where they were like, we fucked up with the name, so we're changing it because the year has been so bad. I'll let people go listen to hear the full discussion. But
yeah, I might have to go. I haven't listened to that, but I'll have to listen to that because.
What was the original name?
I don't even remember. Wow. I mean, I like the show quite a bit, but you know, I'm not. I don't always keep notes.
Yeah. Anyways,
I'm not a super fan.
Pokemon Cafe. What?
Okay. So
let's mix this podcast up.
It still feels like a weird transition to make, but Pokemon Cafe Mix, it's a game that came out on the 23rd or 24th.
Is this the puzzle one?
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
I've been playing it on Switch, but it's also on phones. I say I've been playing it, but I don't know how much more I'll actually play it. So, you know,
I hear it's cute.
It's cute. It's cute. That's like honestly the biggest thing going for it, and the biggest thing that I would recommend it for is: do you want a game that gives you cute pictures of Pokemon and pictures of food, like Pokemon food, and you're like, that's cute.
Wait, food made out of Pokemon?
No.
Oh,
like,
okay.
Like it's like, you know,
okay.
Here we're going to have a stack of pancakes decorated to look like Eevee. Or here we're going to have like a little latte that has some like latte art in it. Like,
okay. Is there an omurice with like ketchup art?
Not that I've seen yet, but I would be surprised if there wouldn't, because they're still giving us like, so they introduce foods slowly. So
make a good Pikachu out of almond rice.
They definitely have sandwiches. Muck. They definitely have pancakes, couple of different drinks. What is the other one?
What would Muck be if he was a food?
Jello.
Disgusting.
It'd be a big old wobbly Jello.
It'd be poutine. You just put them all over some French fries.
Jello poutine.
Oh, isn't there isn't there that food that's like a garbage plate?
That's why I went poutine. Yeah, like garbage fries. Yeah, that's what I'm thinking.
Yeah, it's like,
garbage fries are kind of like poutine, but with more stuff on them.
Yeah, it's
just what's the difference between garbage fries and disco fries?
I don't know.
A garbage plate is just like you put a bunch of stuff in there. Like, I don't know. It's
disco fries is where you sprinkle cocaine over the top.
Okay, thank you.
Okay.
Anyways,
speaking of upcoming television shows.
Anyways, that's not what's in Pokemon Cafe Mix. There is no cocaine in that game. But it's basically it's a mobile game. Like, it's the most mobile game out there, where you're basically doing like little like matching puzzles. It reminds me of it's basically the Disney Tsum Tsum game for mobile, but with Pokemon. Where you're just trying to link as many Pokemon of the same type together to clear a number of things off a stage, or there's things that you have to link it nearby so that you can clear those off the stage.
So you've just got like a big old bucket of Pokemon heads, and you're just like dragging your finger around the ones that are close to each other, that are touching, or
right. Yep.
Like free form.
Yeah. They all move around, and that's kind of like that's part of the strategy too, because it's not like a match 3 or it's not like you can move everything around. So for example, one of the things you need to do is, like, if you're making a sandwich, you need to move the these tomatoes into these baskets, right? But you can move them kind of in the same move by just kind of shifting all the Pokemon around, and like it shifts everything over. So it's, yeah. So, but that's, the progression is also, it doesn't make very much sense, but apparently if you serve enough Pokemon enough times at the cafe, they'll decide, hey, I like this cafe enough that I want to work at it. So you kind of collect Pokemon, and they each have some specialties and ways that they can clear things, or in ways that they like what they're better at helping prepare. So if they're like better at preparing a sweet item, then they if you have an order come up for pancakes, then you'll want to use that one. If they're better at drinks, then you have them show up. So it's basically like, have you played a mobile puzzle game? Yes, Pokemon Cafe Mix. It's free. I hate the term free to start, but that's what they're using for it. So it's free to start. Monetization is relatively unobtrusive. Basically, you're just paying for, like, do you want to have some of the extra like bonus things, or do you want extra lives? But you only use the lives up if you lose one of the if you fail a stage. So it's not as terrible as it could be, which I don't know if it's necessarily like
that's
the most it's kind of damning with faint praise, where I'm like, oh, it could be worse, but
yeah, that's an interesting standard to hold it to. Oh,
it's not
as terrible as it could have been.
It's not as predatory as a lot of mobile games. It's pretty fair, but it doesn't seem like there's a lot of other ways that you can spend your money, which are golden acorns. So do that with what you will. I don't know how much more I'm going to actually play this game. It doesn't, because there's not that much other stuff that you can spend it on. It feels kind of slight, but I mean, it's for a free game, and you can see some pretty cute Pokemon. It was fun to try from what I could try.
Well, I look forward to you reporting back next week with reports on Pokemon Smile.
Oh God, no! I'm not.
Everyone
5.
could use a little extra help brushing their teeth.
I have a friend who's playing Pokemon Smile with his son, and it seems pretty cute from what I have been seeing on Twitter.
Yeah, no, it's I don't think it's a bad thing at all. I'm not gonna play.
Okay, what if it was Bugsnax Smile?
Oh shit!
Oh God! I mean,
Bugsnax makes me smile. So
it true.
Does it make you brush your teeth?
No.
Okay,
no.
gotta brush your teeth after eating those Bugsnax.
I mean, who knows if you'll still have teeth after eating some Bugsnax?
Yeah, your teeth can just
turn into candy corn.
Yeah. Oh no. There's no worse fate in this universe than that.
There's gonna be like a candy corn, like candy corn ants or something. I don't know.
I don't know. I could think of a worse fate. Maybe you have to play the Pokemon Sword DLC, Alex.
Boom. Oh God.
Wow.
So
wow.
Did you see that one of the things you have to do in that DLC is find 150 Diglett that are just hanging around the island?
You don't have to, but yes,
you don't have to,
thing
but
that you do.
Like what the fuck?
It's
so
like a
stupid.
collectible that they introduce.
It's like the damn Korok seeds in Breath of the Wild.
Yeah.
Okay, those are brilliant. Stop. Those are good.
Oh yeah,
Except
these
are
ones,
not as brilliant. These are just kind of like
they're just
hanging
like,
around.
You see their little bits of hair popping out of the ground, and you hit your button on them, and they pop out and say, "Oh yeah," and then they get sent back to their trainer.
Yeah.
I think you mean to say,
okay.
Diglett dig.
No, they don't say that.
They say like,
oh
this... yay.
Yeah, that's what they say. And they say like V or something.
Yeah.
It's dumb.
But anyways, I've been playing the Pokemon DLC. After the news that we're going to talk about later in the podcast, I felt very I was like, I want to play some Pokemon. So I decided that, there is no way that this DLC is ever going to go on sale. So I was like, why not just pick it up and mess around with it? And it's been pretty fun so far. But yeah, there is that collectible for Diglett, although it was very funny where you find a Diglett and the trainer shows up and is like, wow, you're so good at finding Diglett. Would you help me find the other Diglett? And you're like, yes. He's like, okay, great. There's 150. Go find them. And you're like, oh, that's not what I was.
Evolve, it'd be down to like 50 only.
I mean,
it's like 50 Doug Trio or 150 Diglett. What
I don't know.
Choose?
Spoiler, honestly, you do find a Doug Trio.
I mean, collectibles are just bad. They're always bad. They're bad. I mean, playing The Last of Us 2, the collectibles suck in that game too.
It feels pretty unobtrusive
Witcher 2,
so far.
You get like trading cards for the people you sleep with.
That's the first Witcher. Thank you very much.
Is it the first one?
Only good collectibles. The numerous nude women you can look at in your inventory in The Witcher 1.
You get it for Vess. I think you get Vess's like Gwent card. Wait, no, it's not Gwent. What the fuck? There's something in Witcher 2 and you sleep with Vess and you get a card thing for whatever.
I think it was more of a joke at how stupid that was in the first Witcher.
Maybe.
But yes.
Maybe.
Allison,
mm-hmm.
have you found that massive fucking Wailord that's just hanging out in the bay?
That was so good. Okay. See, that's why I think that this is like this DLC, since this is also just like the first part of the DLC and that there's more coming later, it might be like worth it, especially if you were into Pokemon Sword and Shield, is because basically the bulk of there's a whole there's like the whole dojo, and I'm working on my way through the quests on that, but it's mostly like just this big wild area, and it feels like a much better constructed wild area than the one that's in the main game. It feels like they kind of learned how to actually make a good wild area. Yeah. So it feels a whole lot better. But one of the it's since you're on an island, the bulk of this wild area is on this one big island. But there are other kind of small islands that you can go explore if you want to go find some stuff. And at a point you see in the distance, you're like, is that a Wailord? And so you just go out and find it, and you're like, yeah, that's a Wailord just sitting out there, and then you can capture it. It's
how long do people think Wailord is? I've got the answer here. Don't Google it.
Like in what unit of measurement?
You can feet or meters, either one.
I'm really bad at it.
Like how long?
Let's say 17 meters.
Okay.
I'm gonna say 75 meters.
Ooh, that's a big boy.
That'd be a huge whale.
35 meters?
Pat is closest with 17 meters. We got a 14.5 meter boy here.
That's okay.
Or girl.
Okay.
Yeah, but it
47.7 inches long.
But it is the
47.7
the one time that it feels like everything's really to scale is that you can just see off in the distance. You're like, wait, that's a Wailord. Hang on.
The Wailord big as shit.
Yeah.
And they're just like, oh yeah, I'm just gonna throw Wailord out in this little Pokemon gym, and like everyone would die.
I don't know if you've played the game, but you throw beach ball sized Pokeballs that have like 10-story tall Pokemon all the time.
No, but you go into
what I'm saying is, what does Dynamax Wailord look like?
Oh god.
It's real big.
I don't know. Well, I caught that Wailord, so I'll.
Yeah, you got to Dynamax that thing and get back to us.
I'll have to find a place to Dynamax it. But yeah,
wasn't there something in the fucking lore where Dynamaxing isn't like
it's not real? It's like a projection.
It's just like a projection. Like what the fuck is that? Like, God damn it.
Yeah, it's weird. I hadn't actually finished the main campaign because I got distracted by my poor attempts at shiny hunting in Sword. So I finished that, and then I've been doing this DLC, and yeah, I don't know what this. There's lore there about the Dynamaxing, and that's like a whole thing, and I'm like, I don't know. I'm not going to pay attention.
The story in that game is not particularly good.
No. No, and it's like I don't always expect it to be for Pokemon, but at the same time, like they've had better stories before.
Yeah.
It just kind of ends. Like you
That's what I've heard.
it, and you're like, oh, it was all figured out. I'm like, okay. Well, I'm champion now, I guess. Okay.
Wow, spoilers. I will say I'm playing it again because it's a perfect exercise bike game. And I stopped right before the part that is interesting, at least aesthetically to me, because then I got to the Mushroom Forest, and they should have put the Mushroom Forest at the start of that game, because that place has more personality than the entire region combined to that point.
Yeah. And that's the one thing I think I'd say about the Isle of Armor is that it does have quite a bit of personality, which is good. And it makes me feel like, okay, you're learning Pokemon.
Yeah, because what I realized was that the story's not great. But that aside, my biggest issue with the game was just that it felt like it felt very generic. Like it almost felt like I was playing a clone of a Pokemon game, but there's a clone of a Pokemon game that exists that's quite good now. So like, that's, I think, part of the problem is it was like, oh, look, another grassy field. Oh, look, another grassy field. Oh, this time there's some rocks. But now that I've gotten to I did the fairy gym. That was like cool. The forest is really cool. I got to the castle city, which is more visually interesting than previous city. So
I think I'm
gonna finish it, I think.
Yeah, I think some of the like design in some of those, especially like the later cities, I where I was finishing, I was like, this game looks pretty cool at times. And I think that really the Isle of Armor, it shows what the potential is for the wild area concept, because it one of the things that it has you do is you're doing this, you're at this dojo, right? And you have to do these trials at the dojo, but all of them are at least the first two that I've done out of 3 involve doing stuff within the wild area. Like it's like, for example, like the first trial is like you have to find these slowpoke, but they're fast slowpoke for some reason. and
they kind of torpedo into you, don't they?
They are. Oh my gosh, you have to and so you have to like find them and then run into them. And then the next one is kind of is finding these max mushrooms, and you have to like, you go, okay, well, they're going to be in this cave, so you go find them in this cave. And it's like, it's pretty basic stuff, but it feels really much a lot like Pokemon, like kind of is dipping its toes into some of the other kind of quest design that other RPGs might have, and it's kind of interesting. So it's I mean, I feel like I don't want to be too like, I feel like I want to be very measured about this, because on the one hand, it is new for Pokemon, but on the other hand, I'm like, yeah, that's a lot of other RPGs though. But it's been pretty cool to check out, and I think, you know, I know that there's been a whole lot of discussion about Sword and Shield, like a lot of discourse, but I do think that Game Freak is genuinely trying to do interesting things.
Yeah.
And to do new things. So I'm hopefully so I'm actually really interested in seeing what the second set of DLC is going to be, because I think it's supposed to be a lot bigger than the Isle of Armor.
That's what I think they said. Yeah.
Yeah. So
2 whale lords.
Yeah. So but it already feels like, you know, there's a decent amount to explore. There's a lot of new like items that you can get because of it. I spent all of my money on new clothes for my character, because that's what you do. But it feels very it feels like it's gonna be a good addition, I think, especially once we get the second wave of the DLC. And by the way, Pat, if you're now playing it again, I I'm going to go back into shiny hunting, so you're going to have to help me with the Shield exclusive Pokemon.
I don't know how effective I'll be at finding shiny ones, but
no, you don't need to find the shinies. It's just I need to have I just need to complete my my Pokedex.
Gotcha. Yeah, I'm happy to assist because
because I briefly had the thought, do I need to buy Shield? And then I was like, no, I can't do that. But my brain was like, should I?
So with this in mind, if you were, let's say, in late 2019, early 2020, and collating a list of the best games from 2019, do you think Pokemon Sword and Shield should be on that list?
I still stand by the fact that everyone's number one game should be on that list. So yes.
Sam's not here to defend himself, so.
I mean, it was honestly on my top 10, and I don't know if I'd still agree with that, but at the same time, I don't think it's necessarily like, it's not a bad game for sure. It's not the best that it can be, but at the same time, I don't know. It's I feel like it's hard to quantify because I feel like I have very specific different expectations for Pokemon than I do other games, which is maybe not fair for Pokemon and or other games. But at the same time, that's kind of where I'm at. So I don't even know. But
all right.
I do think that that this DLC is fun, especially if you like the idea of the wild area and you're like, I don't know about the way that this is laid out. So
all right. Well, I look forward to our 2022 Game of the Year, Pokemon Snap.
New Pokemon Snap.
New Pokemon Snap. I'm sorry.
I'm so excited.
But in the meantime, speaking of catching monsters and raising them, Pat, you've got something else in the tank.
So my friends and we had been playing a ton of Deep Rock Galactic, which is still very good. We also completed some of the end game content, and the way I am with those games is I'm like, okay, I've seen everything. I haven't done everything, but I've seen how everything works, so it's less of a game I want to play every day. So because of the fact that Ark Survival Evolved came out for free on Epic, earlier this week I was like, hey, so if I were to purchase an Ark server, would people want to play it? And a year ago, they all would have said absolutely not. But one of my friends has been playing Conan Exiles and really enjoying it, which is also a survival game.
Which will be free next week on Epic.
Yeah, I know. Trust me that. Yeah. Which I believe is overall a better, more approachable game than Ark, but also.
Really?
Yes.
I thought I heard that Conan game was bad.
It's not. Well, I mean, in the sense that everyone has opinions about survival games, right? Like a lot of people think the entire genre is trash. So if you're one of those people, then you will not like Conan Exiles.
I thought I heard that.
I thought I heard that too. But
it was really rough when it came out.
Okay.
It was in early access.
That's all I heard about it. So.
And when it was in early access, it was very, very rough. Since then, it is it has improved quite a lot. Conan Exiles has a lot of weird shit in it. Like you, instead of raising and taming dinosaurs, you raise and tame people. We'll say, which is problematic. Right.
Yikes!
It is. So anyway, fitting with the Conan lore, let's put it that way, which is a very rough place. Anyway, Ark Survival Evolved. After migrating back and forth, the Epic client for that game is a disaster. It can't effectively crossplay with Steam players, even though it advertises to. So I made a Steam server because I play it on Steam, and then nobody could connect to it. So then I reinstalled the game on Epic, and then we all connected to it, but it was bad because of certain client issues and connection issues. So then we remade the server and everybody bought it on Steam in the Steam sale for $10. So ultimately we ended up finally playing.
Mission accomplished.
Yeah. And it turns out we're having a lot of fun now. We started playing in the game has zones that you spawn in, and they get progressively harder the higher the numbers are. But I had never started in zone 3 before, which is also listed as an easy zone. So we started there. You spawn on the beach always as an almost nude person.
Tane, as an almost nude Tane.
They call the terminology is that you're a naked when you spawn. That's what the Ark the Ark community calls you. You call yourself a naked. You're not actually nude like in Rust or in Conan.
That's like
or like Dark Souls where you get the depraved.
I mean, in Conan you can. Let's put it this way: Cyberpunk 2077 is not the first game with genital customization.
How many vaginas does it have?
The name though is just it's like the least imaginative thing I've heard in a long time.
I might need to go rewatch that Conan Monster Factory because they have some good fun with that slider.
You can there is a slider in Conan Exiles for your endowment for sure. And it asks you how you feel about nudity. And if you say, give me the nudity, it just takes your loincloth off and it is all there.
Yep. Watch that Monster Factory because it's a very good one.
Anyway, so we spawn on this beach and early on in Ark, it's a nightmare, basically. It's not fun. And that's probably why people think those games suck, is because you basically just die over and over and over again and lose all of your items every time you die. You can recover them from your corpse, and your corpse stays around even after you die multiple times for like 2 hours, but it's usually whatever killed you is eating your body. So it's hard to go back and recover from your corpse. But after a while, we established a beachhead and started building our homes. Once you build beds, it gets a lot easier because you can spawn in the same place, at least, because you can spawn at beds when you die. For those who don't know, Ark Survival Evolved is a stick and rock survival game where you punch trees for wood and then make a hatchet and then whack rocks for smaller rocks. But what's always been intriguing to me about it is I have seen a lot of screenshots that are like, I've tried to start it several times, but I've seen a lot of screenshots that are like, you start naked on a beach punching trees, and then you end up in like tier 1 operator gear with ghillie suits and AR-15s and scopes on them, shooting like fantasy dinosaurs
and pooping your pants.
Oh yeah, you poop a lot too. So anyway, I wanted to see how the progression worked and how you get from point A to point B there. So we established this beachhead. We're building our homes. 2 of my friends start building. One of them builds the one who's been playing Conan Exiles, because of the similarities between the games, very quickly built a pretty impressive house, just made out of thatch, but it had like the sloped roofs, so it was like actually house shaped and not just a box. It was like pretty aesthetically pleasing. It looked as good as a house in an RPG. And so then we ran into some issues with like getting attacked by bugs and stuff, huge bugs like the murder hornets, but came out of it okay. We started taming dinosaurs for mounts, because taming the dinosaurs is a huge part of Ark. And to tame dinosaurs, you get a pair of bolas and you throw them at the dinosaur so it can't move anywhere, and then you beat it with a club until it's unconscious, and then you force feed it narcotic berries to keep it unconscious while it eats your food and comes to like you, which is a little messed up, but whatever. They're animals, right? So we tamed our mounts and started riding around looking for more resources, and we're having a great time. And then a brontosaurus, which are one of the impressive things about this game is the scale is quite cool when you get the huge dinosaurs. Brontosaurus is being very big, much bigger than our houses, and in fact they can trample your houses and destroy them. So we were like, well, we got to take out this brontosaurus. So everyone got their bow and arrows out and started shooting arrows at this brontosaurus, and it started to run away, and it ran directly into a alpha prime raptor, which is a particularly vicious and violent raptor.
Clever girl.
Yeah, so we killed the brontosaurus, and then the raptor started eating it. This was about 200 feet from our houses. And after it got done eating the brontosaurus, it came and killed all of our mounts, killed us, literally spawn camped us and continued to kill us over and over again, and then started destroying and demolishing our entire base that we had started constructing.
Incredibly clever.
At which point I thought everyone was going to quit, because it was like a whole evening of work kind of lost. But when you die in that game, you don't lose your experience points, so your learned crafting stuff and your stats don't go away. So we respawned in another spot, and now have a pretty awesome fort on top of a hill that is safely off the beach and not in an area where raptors spawn. And we've started breeding dinosaurs, which is fun. My friend bred and incubated a parasaur, which is the dinosaur we're using for mounts.
Did you say my friend bred?
No. Well, he bred.
I'm friends with Bred too.
I thought you...
My friend,
okay, I understand now.
Active.
I thought you were identifying.
Yes,
I thought you were identifying your friend as named Bread.
No,
my friend Bread did this thing.
I won't dox any of my friends who are playing with me. But
animal wifery.
One of my friends managed to make two of their dinosaurs do the dirty dance and create an egg, and then incubated it, and then he named the dinosaur Lil Dude, and then it walked outside into a campfire and died immediately. And it was very funny, and we all just kind of watched it happen. We got to keep him on a short leash. But yeah, I don't know. It's that game now is making sense as like why people like it, because we spent like 5 hours last night in a Discord call, just like somebody said, "Oh, I see a brontosaurus. Do you want to come and help me?" And then we would go out and everybody would go around it and take it down, and it would mean we had another 200 hide that we could use to make armor for everyone and stuff. And one of my friends started learning how irrigation works and is making it so that we don't have to go down to the water every time we need to refill water skins. He's also learning how to do farming, which he's using our human feces for fertilizer in, but that's another whole nother thing.
Just like Matt Damon in The Martian.
Exactly, just like Matt Damon in The Martian. I'm trying to start exploring the jungle to find, like, there's a bunch of like narrative stuff in that game if you go looking for it. So I'm kind of exploring the jungle to try to find some of that stuff. I also tamed a pteranodon, so now I can fly, which is pretty cool. And I think we're going to play it for a while. It's making sense now as to how people enjoy those games, and we're just playing on a private server with PvE. What I'm enjoying about playing it in that way is it also kind of makes us all like our own dungeon masters, because we can tweak settings. So like the nighttime kind of sucks because it's long and pitch dark, which is cool visually, but it also means you can't really get much done at night. So I just sped it up so that night goes by twice as fast as daytime. Things like that you can tweak. You can tweak the difficulty level. You can tweak how the base game's default settings, you have to eat food like every 10 minutes of real time or you'll starve. So I just backed it off, so you only have to eat like once every hour or so. So having like the ability to change all those settings is kind of cool. It's kind of like running your own private MMO server, because you can change how things go with the right group of friends. It's a lot of fun because you can like, we all agree that we still want it to be a game and not just cheat our way through it, but we can tweak the settings so that it's less painful from like a structure decay and hunger and stats perspective. So yeah, if you got it for free on Epic, give it a try if you have some friends to play with. I don't think that game would be very fun to play single player, so I wouldn't bother if that's where you're at.
Well, you've just guaranteed I won't play it. Stick and rock game, need friends, no thank you.
Yeah, I think that playing with, I don't think this group will want to do this. I could see it being enjoyable to say, hey, we're going to start our own little like 5-person community on an official server with other people. That could be, Conan has a really cool thing, server type called PvE conflict, where, and I think that Arc has this too in some way, where it's PvE like 90% of the time, and then there's like a day where you can do PvP. So you don't actually have to constantly defend your stuff from other players, but like once a week you have to jump on for the evening and like be prepared to fight. I could see that being fun to go into an official server where there's like another 40 people playing somewhere. But it's really nice that like the place we built our base is like the perfect place to do that. And there's no way if we went on any kind of official server that area would be available to build in. So it's nice playing with a small group of friends, and the server is only like $12 a month to maintain for 10 people. So it's not terrible if everyone's chipping in.
All right. Well, from dinosaurs from the past to the future, Alex, what did you bring this week?
Technically, Ark is like way in the future. It's not. There's like tech raptors and metal things. A tech raptor is like a horizon dinosaur.
Silicon Valley is out of control.
My friend actually tamed a horizon dinosaur, a tech parasaur, and then it died, and he was upset.
Hi.
Did
we want to talk about the game that you and I have finished, or do we want to talk about something else?
We can talk about anything you want. It's the only game I played this week, but if you want to talk about something else first, that's up to you.
Yeah, I finished a bunch of games. I don't think they're worth having a full conversation about right now. I think I'd be more interested in having a Last of Us 2 conversation, which is the one that Andre and I both finished. But I'll say really quick, just kind of rapid fire mode. I finished a couple runs of Monster Train. The game's pretty cool. So it's good. I don't know if I'll finish many more because I was like, yeah, I get it. This is good. It kind of hits the same feelings I had with Solitarica, even though I think I 100%ed Solitarica because I really liked it. But this one it's almost a bit more simple, I guess. Like it's very easy to finish a run. Like I think I finished a run after my third playthrough or something like that. Yeah. Anyways, play it. It's good. I finished You and Me and Her, which is definitely worth a conversation at some point. It's
me, myself, and Irene game.
Exactly. No, it's a visual novel that's really interesting, in how it breaks the fourth wall, but not in a shitty way. Like that's all I'll really say about it without being spoilery, because like it does it in kind of a clever way that makes sense within its own lore, which feels weird, but yeah. Again, it's good. I don't know if I'd as easily recommend it as I do Monster Train, but we can have a full conversation about it another time. I have been playing I don't know if it's a Switch game, but I've been playing on Switch a game called Evan's Remains. I don't know if any of y'all have heard of that.
Is this like a sequel to What Remains of Edith Finch?
No, sadly not. It's like a side-scrolling...
Gaming Fix's favorite game.
Yeah, it is. Everyone loves it. It's like the side-scrolling...
Everyone should love it.
It's a platformer, but story game. It's largely like you're doing these puzzles that are platform-based that have all these mechanics ascribed to each of them, where like you jump on this platform and it disappears after you jump off of it, and then you push this switch which pulls some of them in and out and stuff like that, and there's warp plates. So it's very much just a puzzle game where your interaction is jumping, and then it has story bits in between these puzzles, and the story is interesting. I'm probably about an hour in. I don't know how long it is. It goes in weird directions where you're like, oh, I thought this was just kind of a mystery game, but it turns out this is set really fucking far in the future, because they're using like portals and stuff like in their actual story, and it gets weird, but it's been interesting so far. And the last one to rapid fire through is Terraria. So speaking of games where you can just set up a server with some friends and just kind of fuck around for a handful of hours, Terraria is great for that. I had never really touched it before. I've had it for years, probably like 5 years. But this was the first time I really sat down and just played it with some friends, and it's cool. Like going down and exploring the caves and running into random events and finding out that like, oh, now it's raining slimes from the sky. Go back to your home because there's a shit ton of slimes there. Or like the bosses that you run into, like when we ran into Skeletron or something like that, or Skeletron maybe, I can't remember, but it's this massive skeleton where if you go too far, it just spawns like 20 skeleton heads and kills you immediately.
I think that's the thing with those games to a degree, is like, you just, unless you like spoil everything for yourself from like watching or reading a wiki, you just don't know what's going to be down there in Terraria or out there in something like Ark, which is, it's cool. That's a
fun time when you don't know what's gonna happen.
Yeah, especially when it's with friends.
Yeah, and I was really enjoying that aspect of it, but I think I've almost fallen off of Terraria because we got to the hard mode part where it's like you beat this very specific boss that you have to spawn in a very specific way, and then from then on everything gets way harder. And now I'm just like, this is less casual and less fun. So
yeah, I think that's yeah.
So
certainly to a degree, I think if like we had stayed in that first area I described in Ark where there's just fucking raptors everywhere, that wouldn't have been fun because it would have just been dying all the time. It's only because we found an area that's like relatively peaceful that we're able to enjoy it, because now it's like we have a place to strike out from. But if the whole world is harder in Terraria in that hard mode, then it makes it probably less appealing.
Yeah, like it's still cool, and the sense of discovery is awesome because now there's like really aggressive unicorns, which is funny. But at the same time, like it's just less, like every time you're going out, even with pretty decent gear, you're like very much at threat of dying. Though I am also riding on a flamingo, so that's pretty cool.
Which is pretty great.
Is it like Joust?
It's kind of like Joust, yeah.
Oh my god, that's amazing.
Yeah.
I like Joust a lot.
Yeah, Terraria is really good. If you have it, play it with some friends. It's a good time.
The one thing I will circle back to is I haven't played Evan's Remains, but I just pulled it up, and that sprite work is so good looking.
Oh, it's extremely gorgeous. Yeah, like it
is beautiful.
It's really, really pretty, and the story it's telling is pretty interesting. I haven't finished it, so I can't comment on the story overall, but it has been really interesting so far, and I'm inclined to finish it.
Yeah, so. I just needed to call that out because I pulled it up and I was just like, okay, I might need to play it just so that I can look at some more of that sprite work because it's beautiful.
Oh yeah,
it is pretty.
Gorgeous.
Yeah.
Anyways,
has a bit of a Fez thing going on almost.
Yeah, I can see that. Kind of like the high fidelity
art,
high fidelity pixel art for the environments. Yeah, like I can agree with that too. Yeah, it's good. We'll come back to that when I finish it probably. But for now, I think we need to talk about The Last of Us Part 2.
Spoiler free for those listening.
That's something
ruin the experience for any of you.
Yeah, the game is still way too new and fresh to dive into spoilers. Like, I think we need to keep it spoiler free for now.
I have not finished it yet as well.
Yeah. So Andre, you and I have both finished it. Pat, you're a handful of hours in, 10 hours or something you said,
10 hours in, yeah.
So having finished it, I have a lot of thoughts. And I've written down notes this time. I don't usually take that many notes. But knowing that we didn't want to talk about spoilers, I want to at least have things we can talk about which don't require talking about the explicit details of the story.
Sure.
One thing that I think it might be the most accessible game ever made, maybe, because like it has
a lot of accessibility options.
It has options for one-handed gaming, so like you can customize the controls as much as you want. It has tons of options for visually impaired gamers, like high contrast modes and all that kind of stuff. It has a lot of options for deaf gamers. It has super granular control over difficulty, so like, hey, do you want easier stealth? Here you go, have easier stealth. Or, you want easier stealth, but you also want harder combat once you get into it. You can do that. Do you want your partner that's with you to be really aggressive while stealth is really easy, but combat is really hard? Sure, you can do that too. Like, you can change up the game as much as suits you, which I think is just, I don't know if I've ever seen a game go quite as far as they do.
What I will add as an addendum, because I learned about this recently, is it is the only reason it is definitely not the most accessible game ever is because it is a PlayStation exclusive. There are a lot of folks who need third-party software to use alternative controllers, and the PlayStation does not support that. So certain things like breath-based controllers and controllers that you use with your feet aren't usable on PlayStation in the same way. There's some support for them, but in the same way as they can be on PC. So I'm certainly not arguing, because the accessibility options are incredible in this game, but it is an interesting thing to think about for anyone who is kind of like heard about the accessibility features.
You can use, there is a way to use the Xbox accessibility controller. Is that what it's called?
Yeah.
Adaptive
controller.
These are multiple accessibility advocates who need them, and I definitely don't think they're missing anything.
Right. And to step back, I think the platform, because the platform not having that available is definitely a factor, but I think the game itself and everything it has implemented is possibly the most accessible game.
Right. I
if
think
the
there's definitely
isn't.
More that could be done, but at the same time, I think it's worthwhile to highlight just...
It does more than just about every game out there.
Yeah,
totally agreed.
You can tell it was they spent a lot of time, and probably a lot of time, with accessibility minded folks to get that stuff right. And I think that's something that should be applauded, and hopefully other studios can take a page out of that book, because it's good. I turned some of them on just to see what they were like, and just to experience it that way. And it was great. It was very cool. So yeah. But for the game itself, when it comes to the gameplay, I gotta say, well, let's step back. So we all played The Last of Us 1, right? Except for Allison, you didn't finish it, did you?
I played like part of it, but I didn't finish it.
Yeah. So like for me, I did not like playing at least the first half of that game at all. And then the only time I really liked it is when you got the bow.
Which it's very like heavy, kind of like the way it moves.
I know that I didn't really particularly like it, and I think that's part of why I dropped off.
It felt pretty clunky. Like the bow, at least when you got that, it gave you more options to treat it like a stealth game, even if it wasn't the best stealth game, which is what made me enjoy it more. And then start experimenting with things like, throwing brick over here, using bow over there, and like, getting around people and stuff. And that's when I started enjoying it. The Last of Us 2 is better, in my opinion, but I think it also doesn't know what it wants to be.
Yeah.
Like sometimes
it moves much quicker than that first game.
Yeah.
Like you can really move through those levels.
Yeah, but sometimes it wants to be a stealth game, and like it encourages you to like, sneak around and get behind people, and like it gives you a full kind of skill tree that you can do for stealth and all this kind of stuff. It's like, yeah, you should be doing the stealth, but as someone who likes stealth games, it isn't a very good one. Just straight up as a stealth game. Like,
can you give an example of a good stealth game?
I really liked Mark of the Ninja.
Hitman 2.
Hitman 2 is okay.
Hitman 1.
See, what's interesting is
Metal Gear Solid 5.
I haven't played MGS 5 yet, but I've really enjoyed the stealth in Last of Us, and I really enjoyed the stealth in Hitman, and I hated Mark of the Ninja.
That's interesting.
Which is
really, that is interesting.
Yeah, I couldn't get into Mark of the Ninja at all. I think it was the team playing, so I don't think it's anything against like the craft in that game, but that's why I was curious, because I think it might just be different preferences in what stealth, like having all the information in Mark of the Ninja did not make me enjoy it more. I think that's maybe what it came down to.
But for me, like when I reflect on The Last of Us 1 and why I ended up kind of liking it as a stealth game is because your encounters that you were having even late game were like with like 5 or 6 dudes, maybe like pretty small encounters overall. But in this one, there's some where you're going through like literally 40 or 50 people.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah,
and it's like as soon as as soon as one of them like aggroes or like finds you, then all of a sudden everything gets super fucked.
Yeah, and it's like you can lose their like, you know, get lost and hide in some more bushes and kind of re-enter stealth, but it's such a pain in the ass because I don't know what difficulty you played on, but it always felt like I was playing on like the second hardest. You could always like, it felt like I was always getting caught whenever I get like 1 or 2 stealth kills, be like, oh, there was a person like 30 yards away who was looking at me, but I couldn't see because even on my 55-inch TV, I'm like, what? Oh, there's a person over there. Damn, they saw me.
I kind of wish they would have incorporated the Uncharted 4, like as much as I understand why they didn't, but like the kind of like diamond that shows up over their head, so you know at least who's looking at you. Something like that could have been nice, but yeah, that's it. Like
no, they have the audio cue.
But you don't know where you don't know who it's from though. Like you were saying, like if you don't know it's that tiny person, like it would be nice to know it's that person that's seeing you. But
sometimes it's they walk like you start your stealth or you start your like stealth kill, and then that person happens to be turning around. You're like, oh shit, I'm in the middle of this animation. Like, please finish the kill.
Yeah, like that was fine. There was kind of some risk reward there, I think.
Yeah.
And you're right. Like once you are discovered, you can get back to stealthing relatively. Like sometimes you can't. But like there was a point where I was feeling pretty good about the stealth in this game, and I was like, okay, I can just be really patient. I can wait. I can watch what's happening. I can take out very strategic people that won't be found later. And then they introduced the fucking dogs and the stalkers, and it's like, okay, now I can't be patient anymore because they force you to be an active participant. Yeah, and it's like, well. Now it's forcing you to be an action game. And I'm like, well, it's also not a very good action game.
I don't know if I agree that it forces you to be an action game. I think it just forces you to play the stealth differently. I mean, maybe that changes later on, but I've encountered I've had a few encounters with dogs.
I encountered some spots where there was like no way, like there was too many people for me to do anything stealthily. Like it was basically like, I can run through here and have everyone shoot at me, or I can get in a massive shootout, but there's no way I'm stealthing through this entire
section. Sounds like it just gets worse from an encounter design perspective, really.
Yeah.
I don't know if worse is the right word, but definitely it wants you to think it's a stealth game, but it's not. And I don't know if that's a bad thing per se. That's what I mean by it. It seems confused. Like it doesn't know what it wants to be.
The first half definitely gives you way more tools for that.
Exactly. The second half
gives you fewer tools.
The second half wants to be an action game. Like it. Yeah. I won't say what it does, but let's just say the arsenal it gives you is much more action oriented.
Yeah.
And like if and when stealth fails and you're forced into combat, I would say the action is serviceable. I wouldn't say it's worth writing home about, but like there was some forced combat sequences which were straight up bad. I think I wrote to you, Andre, about that one encounter was like, this one was just bad.
There is a combat arena with some infected that's not great.
Where you're forced, like there's no way around it. You have to. And that part was kind of...
It's just survive for like 3 minutes or something.
In every way, I'm very interested to play the second half because in every way it seems like this game should have been the first 15 hours and then just done.
I just totally disagree. Totally disagree.
I don't know.
I'm leveling all these criticisms because that's the only thing I really want to criticize. Because like overall, the moment to moment gameplay feels like, even with all those criticisms, I would say at the very least it feels competent all the time. Like just that moment to moment gameplay. But like in spite of all of that kind of just being okay, it makes up for it in so many more ways that turns it into an exceptional game. Like I came away with it thinking, this game is probably my game of the year unless something pretty crazy happens. Because like the set pieces in this are fucking nuts. Like Naughty Dog is known for their set pieces, but I would say this far surpasses any of the ones they've done in the past. The audio design is impeccable. Like the visuals are insanely pretty, even on my base launch PS4. And ultimately what's most important to me is that the writing overall is pretty much second to none. Like both for the overall story and the quieter kind of character moments where you're walking around and talking and interacting and stuff.
I would have liked them to have maybe divvied up the story differently than they did. Then we don't want to get into spoilers, so I won't say what exactly I mean by that, but maybe next week we'll do a spoiler cast. But I think the way they did it made me not like the second half very much, just in terms of like, this is not what I want to be doing right now. I don't care about this. So if they had like divvied this up differently, I think I would have enjoyed or, been more into the way they presented the story.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Go for it, Pat.
Let's say so far I found there are certain moments that are really, really, really have been really strong for me. I think in the first 10 hours, I would say the writing is like a very good prestige TV show, in the sense that I think it's very well done. There are still moments where I'm kind of like, that felt a little forced, and like they needed to shoehorn in this thing. And so there have been times when I've kind of like, it's no Disco Elysium for me, I'll put it that way, in terms of like moment to moment writing and dialogue.
Oh, prestige TV, you say?
I know that's funny. But I also think like it's certainly, so far I'm very intrigued to see where the story goes, because I think it is well crafted, and the performances are set a very high bar for any game that's going to do like performance capture type characters and story, for sure. I think that they elevate what is a very good, I don't want to tear it down, but a very good script, elevated to pretty high levels based on like the performances so far being pretty top notch.
Yeah. And I will place myself in stark contrast to Andre and say that I think the second half was fucking genius. Like I actually loved it. Like from the moment it happened.
I basically, the way they have divvied up basically into a first half and a second half, is what I didn't like. If they had been more intermixed,
I can see that.
I would have preferred that, like as a presentation.
I can understand that for sure.
Yeah.
I like the way they did it. I think it's really interesting. And again, we're going to be dancing around spoilers until we can actually talk about them explicitly.
I think I know the thing that happens, that I don't know the story events, but I think I know what the second half does, and that you're talking about.
And it should be worth saying, like, I think I brought this up last week when talking about the thing that happens at the end of the first chapter, which kind of sets off the whole story. That being a story choice that I think was bold and like is exactly the kind of thing I wish most studios would do. And the fact that they went for it so hard was like awesome. And I will say they keep that up for the rest of the game.
Yeah.
Which is really awesome, which is fantastic. And I think they were 100% correct in naming it The Last of Us Part 2, because like I think that's a big distinction to make from calling it The Last of Us 2, because it is very much Part 2. It's, if you consider the first game to be like an active setup for a story, then we can consider Part 2 to be the response, like two halves of a whole, right? Like
sure,
the first part is the action, and then Part 2 is the reaction. And
sure.
What's up, Andre?
Oh no, I can't say too much without getting into spoilers. I've talked to you like about how, like, if I had my way, this game wouldn't have happened, and like we've talked about end of.
We can. I think we can talk about the end of The Last of Us 1 at this point. Yeah. It's been years, and
I think this game does improve on the stuff that I take issue with, because at the end of The Last of Us, you have to kill a doctor. Basically, that is like the last gameplay moment. Basically, you do some running after that, but the last like action you take is kill this doctor who is going to perform the operation on Ellie that would remove her brain and allow them to create a vaccine, supposedly, if they were able to actually do it.
Yeah,
there's no guarantee that would work, but
it's a possibility.
They make the game makes you pull the trigger, and many people attempted to not do that. Like, okay, can I walk around? Can
myself included?
Yeah. I think I walked into that room with no bullets anyway, but they give you bullets in the gun. But you have to kill the doctor. There's no way around it. Like, no matter what, you could shoot him in the leg and like he dies. Which I think is kind of shitty. You can walk right up to him and he just like holds the scalpel out. He doesn't actually try to attack you. If they had just changed that one thing, if he would like swipe at you with the scalpel, I'd be like, okay, that's fine. He attacked me. Now I can shoot at him. But I think that was like, if you're going to give me control of it, let me get out of it in a different way. And we've talked about maybe privately about how there's no choice in that game up to that point. Why would they suddenly present one at the end? But it feels like a false choice, or there is no choice. And it's Joel's story, so I would just prefer if they didn't make it like that kind of gameplay moment.
Sure.
Whereas
like
Last of Us 2, like quick time event or something like that, where there's no other choice. And I think Last of Us 2 does some good. Part 2 does some good similar sequences that don't feel like false choices. But there are also some moments that are not story related, where you'll be like finishing off a combat encounter and there'll be like one dude or one woman left and they'll be like, oh no, please don't kill me, just let me live. And one time I was like, okay, you know what, this was a misunderstanding. I didn't want to kill all your friends, you came at me. So I'm gonna let you live, I'm gonna let you finish. And I'm like, okay, I'm gonna go back over to this workbench, and then the dudes like start shooting at me again. I'm like, are you kidding me? I gave you a chance. And so there's no choice there either, even though they're like, oh, spare me. But then they make it so you can't spare them because they're going to kill you.
I think it's an interesting conversation because to me, having just played Last of Us Part 1, having not liked it back then and liked it considerably more this time through, I didn't even stop to think. I just shot the doctor. I walked in the room and shot the doctor as soon as he grabbed a scalpel.
You're an animal.
Well, I think it's because that game does a very good job. And so far in Part 2, I feel the same way. The game does a very good job of putting you in Joel's headspace in the first game. And if I look at that situation objectively, does it make sense to sacrifice the life of one 14-year-old girl to potentially create a vaccine that can save humanity from this virus? The answer is, of course, it makes objective sense to do that. From Joel's perspective, I had zero problems with like going through the act of killing all those fireflies and shooting the doctor at the end and getting Ellie out. Because I think it does such a good job of making you feel like you understand his motives. Now, I think that's bad game design because you're doing the thing you could have made a movie. And I don't think that it adds to the experience to give you control of that moment, given that there is no choice. So I do think it's worthy of criticism, but at the same time, playing through it myself, I was like, it felt like I was watching a movie because I understood what Joel was doing and I was complicit in it without having a problem with that, I guess, because of the way it put me in that space.
Yeah. And I know what you mean by what you're going for, Andre, as well. Because it's like, oh, they took the time to give this person the logic to say, oh, I give up, let me live. And you're like, okay, I'm going to let you live. And then they don't run away and disappear. They don't do anything like that. They just come back at you. And it's like, well, and there was never a choice. So I get that.
Yeah. And it ended up making some of like the mid game stuff, like there's a particular line start to ring kind of hollow with like the writing from what they were trying to say, where like the gameplay mechanics don't match up to what the story is trying to say, kind of. And so that was like a little
I think
I enjoyed this game, but it turned on the critical part of my brain in a way that I feel like games haven't in a while. So it's like a good feeling to have stuff to talk about with this.
I think of a similar note to what I was saying about being in Joel's headspace. What I've enjoyed about the game, enjoyed is a weird word, but what I have appreciated about the gameplay in Part 2 is My favorite gameplay sequence thus far has been a sequence where you are choosing words carefully. You are in a sort of neighborhood environment, and there's about, I think it's around 20 enemies. Several of them have dogs. And it is there's like a few houses you can go into. A couple of them are 2-story, and it's not really an important story moment. It's just sort of an encounter you go through to get to the next story beat. But what I really enjoyed about it is it was the first time that they combined dogs and humans and a really lush environment sort of together at once on a semi larger scale than they had done before. It wasn't just one street. It's like a few houses and their yards and the streets around them. And so I very systematically, my strategy was hit someone with an arrow, like dog patrols, kill the human with an arrow and then quickly kill the dog with an arrow, or other stealth way of dealing with them. And then starting with those, taking all of them out, and then moving to start taking out the people and that are by themselves. And then eventually it broke bad after I had gotten rid of about half of them, and then I had to shoot out with the other half. And what was effective to me is that game is it does what people talked about Modern Warfare last year doing in a way that Modern Warfare, I ended up coming to really, really, really like Modern Warfare. It's become one of my favorite multiplayer shooters ever. But I don't think that the campaign does this thing as effectively as people talked about it doing, which is when you fire a gun in The Last of Us, if you have headphones on and you have the volume up, it feels like you are committing an act of violence. It is loud. The gun kicks. There is significant like blood and gore in a way that is not fun or happy or like satisfying, but it does feel the fidelity is impressive in a way that I think games haven't done that much. So the point I'm going to make is doing all that, taking out all those people. It's not that it felt to me just video gamey, like I'm going through the stealth environment, like I'm playing Assassin's Creed. It felt like I was doing violence to these people, but because I was in Ellie's head in the way that I was like, we're not thinking of them as people. We're dehumanizing them. We're eliminating them. They're a barrier. We have to keep moving forward. And so that's why it's like, yes, I can shoot the dog. Yes, I can slice these people's throats, because yes, I can fire this weapon at people, because in my head, they are not people right now. And I think the game does a good job of trying to make them people, and then also making you get psychologically in a position where you feel comfortable murdering them because like they all have names. For example, you kill someone and the other people will be like, Charlotte, where are you? What are you doing? And I think that stuff is very effective. It's definitely disturbing, but I've appreciated it a lot.
Something about the named characters. At first I was like, oh, this seems kind of like it was like randomly generated or something, like it was kind of arbitrary, but it's actually completely consistent. By the way, like all these named characters, without spoilers, near the end of the first half, I killed a dog, and a person named the dog.
Yeah.
And I found out in the second half that the name of that dog was consistent with a dog that was in there. And I was like, oh shit, that was actually the same one. And like,
they like named every single NPC.
Yes.
Yeah, and where they are and what they're doing, and like, that's pretty nuts. Like that's a level of detail that's kind of crazy.
And I think it's effective. I also think it's still sort of stabbing at that. How much does this need to be a game? Like it's still it's an interesting conversation that this game is raising about cinematic type games like this. Like, I would never say that they shouldn't exist, but it's like, are we really getting something out of them that we can't get from watching a film? And I don't know what the answer is for me yet with how Last of Us Part 2 plays out. I would say the first one could have been a 3.5 hour long movie, and I probably would have had a pretty similar emotional reaction to it. Not to say that I don't think it's good, but I don't know that the gameplay parts of it really had the lasting effect.
I think I think the very last sequence would not have been as impactful had it not been a game.
You mean in the first game?
No, in this game.
Sure. Okay.
Which
so
you have not gotten to.
Yeah. So I'm interested to see that.
Where you are forced to take some actions where I was like, fuck, I don't want to do that, but I have to. And I know I have to. And I know this character has to. Yeah. But God, do I not want to? And I think that wouldn't have been as effective if you were just watching it. So I think in that sense, yeah.
Maybe. I don't know if I don't know if I agree with you 100% on like, oh, watching it wouldn't have been the same. I think it was a well executed point. To Kojima-ass motherfuckers.
And I think I know what happens. I'll get there and we'll get there. If it is what I think it is.
Kojima-ass.
If it is what I think it is,
I've ever seen outside of a Kojima game.
If it is what I think it is, I'll probably be pretty disappointed, but I don't know for sure. So I'll hold judgment until I get there.
One thing that disappointed me was I felt like this was like a specific instance, kind of in the early part of the second half. It was a part with infected, and so I was like in this alley and I'm like, oh, can I get in this building? And I broke a window and I heard like some screams. I'm like, oh, okay, there's infected around, but there's none out here, none coming around. I try and listen. Okay, nothing. Just heard a scream, no infected sounds. Then I like go up some stairs and like, oh, there are clickers here. I guess they didn't care about the smashing and come running. I'm like, okay, well, I'm gonna sit here and I'm gonna wait for them to like turn around so I can walk up and stab them. But then they like saw me, quote unquote, even though I wasn't moving or making any noise. I'm like, what the fuck is going on here? It's not right. It's not what clickers do. They're supposed to hear you and then come at you.
Yeah, the inconsistency sometimes.
They can though. Their echolocation can find you even if you're slightly not covered by cover.
Which I had not experienced that. So I was like, what the fuck is going on here? But then, so I'm like, okay, well, I got to get out of here. And I run outside and you have to jump like across a balcony. And they're like, okay, there's no railings on this balcony. So why didn't the clickers come down and get me when I broke that glass? Obviously like something heard me. And then I dropped down into the building where I broke the glass. And then there were a bunch of infected. I'm like, I couldn't hear you before. What the fuck? Even though you were upset about me breaking that glass. So it just felt a little immersion breaking at that point. I think some of like the hearing stuff didn't work for me always. Like there are a lot of instances where you can't hear like silent enemies, but or like if they're too far away and stuff like that. But some of the stuff I was like, I don't know about this one. I should have been able to hear that.
I broke the game a few times, which was funny.
Okay, how'd you break it?
Because I actively didn't like the combat, I would try and run past it as much as possible if I got discovered, rather than engaging, because I was just like, I don't want to spend 20 minutes on this engagement if I can run through it in one. So in a section near the end, I just ran past this encounter and ran into another part of this building where there was probably 5 to 10 people waiting. And for some reason, I think they were supposed to aggro on me, but they didn't. And I was hidden in a way where I could see them all just kind of idle animating, standing there. And if I went into listen mode, I couldn't see them at all, even though I could clearly see them standing probably within about 5 meters ahead of me. And they were all idle animating, waiting to attack. And I was like, what do I do? What happens now?
Yeah.
And it doesn't always hold up 100% of the time, but it holds up often enough. You
gave them a fate worse than death. Idling forever.
At least they weren't T-posing. But
it's not an NBA game.
It's still a game. There's still some points where it'll break, but I think the experience is good to great 99% of the time, to where it's like that 1% of the time, it's like, whatever, that's fine. That happens. Yeah. Anyways, we probably don't need to go on about it much longer because we've been going for a long time, but I think overall at the end, I think it feels like a natural way to end the series. Maybe I feel like a part 3 would just feel kind of unnecessary and maybe a bit insincere with how they wrap things up.
Based on the sales numbers, I bet you there will be more.
I don't know how.
They could they could easily do a third one. I'm not going to say how, but there's a way forward.
Yeah.
I don't want them to. I didn't want them to make Last of Us 2 just because I felt pretty good about that first game and how it ended. I will say this game does not make me feel bad about like The Last of Us 1 or like, oh, this shouldn't exist. But what if they'd made like a new thing?
I think it makes the first one better. In some ways.
Yeah. I'm still frustrated about the end and like the way this story. I'm like, this didn't have to go down like this.
Yeah, but for the story,
tried to stop it.
For the story they wanted to tell.
The story they told. Yeah, the story they told.
I think part 2 makes the original a little better.
I think they'll if I don't know. After Uncharted 2, I thought they shouldn't make another Uncharted game, and then they made Uncharted 3 and it was good. At the end of Uncharted 3, I was like, well, this has got to be the end, right? They can't make another one of these. It's ended pretty well. And I haven't played 4 because
4's good.
I've heard I'm going to play it. After I play Last of Us, I'm going to play 4. We have 4. So and I've heard it's very good and the best in the series. So I would imagine that they will find, if they do decide to make another Last of Us, they will find a way to justify it narratively and emotionally.
I think the narrative there is an easy way to make a third game here. There are multiple ways to make a third game. I think maybe it's best left up to the imagination.
Yeah, I would agree.
I'm sure you're right.
and for what it's worth, Pat, I've been on record on this podcast as saying I don't like Uncharted as a series, but Uncharted 4 is very good.
I have very weird and complicated feelings about Uncharted as a series. The premise of Uncharted as a series is garbage. But
I like Indiana Jones.
I love Indiana Jones.
It's fun.
I love Indiana Jones, and Indiana Jones is also problematic.
Oh yeah, 100%. It's real bad.
And so that's where some of my Uncharted feelings lie. So yeah, but that's a whole other discussion. I'll play Uncharted 4 and we can talk about that.
At least in Uncharted 1, I think you kill some like Nazi zombies.
You do.
Yes, maybe. You do. Yeah. Allison, you have been subjected to this conversation, which you don't particularly care about. How do you feel about Uncharted 1 through 4?
I've only played a little bit of Uncharted 1, but I haven't played any of the others. I just didn't really I did not get into the first Uncharted, but it's something I'd like to get back to.
Did you play Lost Legacy?
No.
Oh, okay, I thought you did for some reason.
Because I want to play that too. So that's part of why I want to play 4. Allison, I would say at this point, if you have an interest in going back and playing Uncharted, you could safely watch a quick playthrough or cutscenes from the first game, because it is a rough game.
It is rough, yeah. I've heard that, and I've heard that they definitely improved the series later. I just remember playing the first one, and like some of the gameplay just like,
it's rough,
especially like the gunplay. I was just like, this is
I did not
like
annoying. Playing the first game at all. I played through it because I found the themes interesting, because like, again, white guy archaeologist stealing stuff and
I like
hurting native people sucks as a trope, but I unfortunately find the art and the world interesting.
I'm on the same page where it's like, where I'm like, I like Indiana Jones despite like any of the like possible like problematic things. You're just kind of like
problematic faves.
But exactly. Indiana
Archaeology
Jones
and anthropology are cool, yo.
They are.
No, it's neat. It's really neat. No, I like the like vibe of it a lot. I just like, I did not really like the gameplay, but I might I'll have to go back and do that.
Uncharted passed your vibe check.
The second game is much better. The second game is like, I think it's fair to say that for anyone to say they don't like the second or third game too, but I think from a gameplay perspective, they're significantly better. And
there
you might enjoy them more.
Real shitty combat at the end of 3.
Like and the end of 2.
Not as bad as 3.
Okay,
3
I never played 3.
Dismal.
So It's a minor spoiler.
Is abysmal in terms of combat.
It's a minor spoiler, Allison, but I mean, there's supernaturally stuff that comes up in those games, which is fun from a narrative perspective. Once they start introducing those things, it's always in like the last quarter of the game, and it's always terrible gameplay wise.
Yeah, that's the biggest thing that I feel like has been keeping me from it, is that I like the idea of Uncharted, but it's also like the gameplay just did not appeal to me at all when I played it.
Also,
but I'll give most of it in the second one.
Yeah.
Nothing about the way they changed the gameplay in 3 for that part makes sense. Just from like what's actually happening, and
they also
what is happening in the game.
This I won't spoil, but they do a narrative thing in 3 near the end that is like, fuck you. Just fuck off. Neil Druckmann, eat my ass. Druckmann, I don't know if Druckmann even wrote the third Uncharted, because I believe
he's
going to
name search every single podcast, and he's going to be commenting at us.
Should we title this episode
podchaser.com/fix?
Yeah, gaming fix. And then we'll title this episode Neil Druckmann, Eat My Ass, and then we'll get him to click in.
Just do it.
Anyways,
based on the tweets he responds to.
Yeah.
I mean, based on he replies to everything, but
yeah. Anyway, Last of Us Part 2 is an excellent game. I'm looking forward to you finishing it, Pat, and then we should do a spoiler cast where we just openly talk about everything. And Allison doesn't have to be there because she doesn't care.
She can be. You can be if you
want.
Moderate the discussion.
What if I just sat in and was like, "Hey, so Last of Us 2. It's sure a game that came out recently."
Ellie. Yeah, she looks like Ellen Page. Got it.
Yeah.
She doesn't even look that much like Ellen Page.
Not in this version, no.
I think it's just that children tend to look more similar to each other than adults because their features haven't fully developed.
You saying Ellen Page is a child?
No, I'm saying that when The Last of Us 1 came out, Ellen Page was closer to being a child, and everyone's memory of her was as a younger person, closer in age to Ellie.
And also the plaid shirt didn't help.
Yeah, I mean, sure.
And also being named Ellie
was like
that also didn't help. I understand why the comparisons existed.
She was like 25 when that. She was 10 years older than Ellie.
Yeah, but this is not meant as a dig at Ellen Page, because I think Ellen Page is awesome. Right. Ellen Page looks about 8 years younger than she is.
She is a
that's pretty accurate.
Yeah. Yes, teen person is a good way to put it.
Petite person.
I thought you said teen person.
I heard teen person, and I thought
she looks like a teen perpetually.
Ellen Page.
There's nothing wrong with that. I wish I looked like a teen forever.
Just like Andy Milonakis.
Oh, he looks like a teen forever.
God.
He's like almost 50. He's 45 or something, I think. Anyways.
Well, speaking of Naughty Dog.
What?
Crash Bandicoot 4 is announced in the news.
Oh, we're going to news? All right.
Fest. Is there, unless there's something else I missed. Nope. I don't think so, though.
Let's do it.
No.
Yeah, Crash Bandicoot 4. When Sam and I had our private little bets about the PlayStation event, I said Crash Bandicoot 4 would be, or a new Crash Bandicoot game would be revealed. And lo and behold, 2 weeks later, Crash Bandicoot 4. You're welcome, everybody.
Yeah,
I brought you this.
Thank you so much.
You're welcome. They brought back the Crash costume from like the PS1 days.
Yeah, I don't know how much I care about Crash Bandicoot.
Oh, me neither.
I feel bad.
People do.
Our friend of the show, Chris Edgerton, is a huge Crash Bandicoot fan, and I don't like picking on things that Chris likes. But I never liked Crash at all.
I feel like I don't know. I feel like it's one of those series where, since I didn't have a PlayStation 1 back in the day, I feel like I missed out on it, same. Majorly. And then I got in some bundle. I got the Insane Trilogy, and I played the part of the first one, and I was like, this is fine.
They're fine. I mean, I don't think it's like bad to like them or anything.
Yeah. Absolutely not.
I don't think they're like bad games.
I feel like it's one of those series where it's hard for me to have the perspective of somebody who played it when it first came out.
Yeah,
I remember what. Oh, sorry. Go ahead.
No, go for it.
When it first came out, not when it first came out, because I was young enough to not really have any critical thought at that point. But within a few years of it coming out, I remember my friend got a PlayStation and we played Crash Bandicoot, and we would play a level and then get bored and then put the Star Wars Episode 1 game in because that game fucking slapped.
Okay. That game is Episode 1 Racer?
No.
Oh.
No,
what?
The Phantom Menace video game that no one remembers but me, so maybe it never existed at all. You played as like you played through the events of the movie, and you played like Obi-Wan in the Trade Federation ship at the beginning, and then you played as Qui-Gon walking around with Jar Jar in the jungle.
Wait, what?
And like eventually you played as like Captain Typho in Naboo, like shooting battle droids and stuff.
Was it kind of like a Shadows of the Empire kind of thing, or what? Like in gameplay and format, I mean.
It was more just like a third-person action game. Like it changed because sometimes you had a lightsaber person, and sometimes you had like
you could be
a blaster.
Queen Amidala or Captain Panaka.
Panaka, not Typho. What am I saying?
Yeah, he's the one from Episode 2.
Yeah. No, Tanaka.
Yeah, how dare you, Pat?
Yeah, and it was like a weird. It was a game where like there was a long sequence on Tatooine where it was like an immersive sim almost, because you could like go in people's houses as Obi-Wan, and there was just like shit happening in their houses. There were no side quests or anything. That game fucking
according
ruled.
to Wikipedia, there were side quests. You could interact with non-player characters for directions, advice, trades, side missions such as rescuing a captive or stopping a mugging.
This
or
game
access other areas.
If I had this game, I would have been so obsessed with it as a kid, because like I mean I just played Episode 1 Racer, which slaps, but
that's a great game too. I will say that I think that Episode 1 game may have been terrible from a like playing it perspective.
But like from a Star Wars fan perspective, it's like I feel like if you're a kid who likes Star Wars, you're like, well, this is what I want. To
get back to Crash, we would play a level of Crash and then go, this is boring, and then play the Star Wars game for like 4 hours, where we would do things like go to the Battle of Naboo level where you play as Tanaka, shoot all the battle droids, and then just kind of run around and look at stuff and for like hours because we loved Star Wars.
Yeah.
But anyway, yeah. Allison, we should stream that fucking Star Wars game. That would be such a fun project.
I would do that. Oh my God. Let's do it.
So GameSpot rated the PlayStation version at a 4.2. So if you extrapolate that out, that's a 4.20. So that's pretty nice.
Nice.
4.2 out of 10.
Yes.
That's unfortunate. I think so. I played it primarily on PC. I think that version may have been better.
They rated the PC version a 4.3. So yes,
it is better. Anyway, I love that game when I was a child.
It's not as nice. It's not as nice.
Yeah. Anyway.
Let's definitely.
Sounds like Crash probably was a better game as a product than the Phantom Menace game. But I liked Phantom Menace.
But it's not Star Wars.
But it's not Star Wars. See, that's the thing. Like when you're a kid and you like Star Wars, you just kind of like, as long as you can have that Star Wars thing, you're like, all right, this is pretty good. This is really good.
Yes. There's a really good video about the Crash Bandicoot and the technology behind it. It's one of the Ars Technica's War Stories series, which is 100% worth watching. And it's all about Crash Bandicoot, and it's how they like the technology behind how they did what they did before anyone else knew how to do what they did. Like, so they basically set the standard, and like how they were using the GPU and RAM and CPU and like how they were storing stuff and rendering stuff. It's really worth a watch. What's his name? I think it's Andy Gavin who gives the talk, and it's like half an hour. It's totally worth a watch. So
Naughty Dog pushing the envelope since the PS1.
Yep, true. But yeah, I would recommend that video over playing Crash.
All right. Well, is there a date on that?
I didn't watch it.
All right. That I think that fits with our what we just said, where we diverged from Crash Bandicoot 4 to immediately talking about Star Wars Episode 1, the game.
Yep.
But
hey,
it is being made by
There's never a
Toys
bad
for
time
Bob.
to talk about Star Wars Episode 1.
It is being made by Toys for Bob. That's a good studio.
Toys for Bob, creators of Skylanders, and the people they did the remaster of Crash 1 to 3, right?
Skylanders was like just ahead of its time. If Skylanders had come out after Destiny was a thing, and they could justify just having one big platform game to add on to instead of having to make a yearly sequel, what a world we'd be living in.
But then how would they sell you a new platform where you can put the crystals in?
They wouldn't have to. They sell add-ons to it. They could just have made it from the start expandable with ports on it.
But to answer your question, Andre, I'm just looking. They did the Crash Insane trilogy and Spyro Reignited. Toys for Bob did.
So
and also Skylanders.
They're good at least at rebuilding those games. So
yeah. So I can't think of a better modern studio to do it than those guys at the moment.
Yeah. So good luck to Toys for Bob. Hopefully people like that game. Mm-hmm. Those Crash Bandicoot, that remaster did really well. So
totally.
All right. Next up, Star Wars Squadrons. So a game Pat can play. Pat can play one level of Crash Bandicoot 4 and then put in Star Wars Squadrons.
Yeah, that's how that'll go.
We talked about them announcing this game last week, but they have confirmed that the 5v5 matches will have AI units that you can shoot down, so you can have that dream of being like the super good pilot and taking out all the fodder enemies, and then oh my god, there's like a bogey on my tail.
Yes, exactly.
Then Wario fucking dies.
I think that's that game is what I want from a gameplay perspective for sure, which is a game where I can hop in with a few friends and then have that experience of like shooting a ton of TIE fighters and then fighting another player.
Get shot from behind like Darth Vader and you go, oh
yeah, exactly. I do think it's interesting. I heard I've heard some people say like, oh, I hope that they get into the sort of the TIE fighter thing of like, not everyone in the Empire is bad. And I think that's sort of a like, no, they are all bad. They are all space fascists. They all kill people and like, no, they're all bad.
Yeah, fuck you, Finn.
So you need to read Lost Stars because it deals with that in the best way.
I hope so, because one of my least favorite parts of the Star Wars fandom is the Empire was right. The rebels are terrorists.
I think
contingent of fans.
Yeah, no, I don't. It definitely doesn't do that, but I think it goes into especially like how the and basically how a lot of the people in the Empire were like basically raised into it from birth, like kind
I get
of
that for sure.
Like you know, they're raised into this society, and this is like and all the various you know, kind of things. It certainly, I don't think it ever does the like the Empire's good actually.
Right. No, I'm sure
which I hate too. But anyways, everybody go read Star Wars Lost Stars. It's a very good book.
But Squadron sounds like what I want it to be. They did come out and say that it's like a complete game in the box and they don't have DLC plans, which on the one hand is like, that's cool. I don't think not every game has to be a game as service live game that exists forever. It's fine to put out a cool multiplayer game. Like go play Titanfall 2. It still is fucking rad.
It's on Steam now.
And it's on sale. I got to buy it on Steam also. But I would kind of like for the Star Wars space shooter game to be one of those live service games where they're putting stuff into it forever.
Well, there's a lot of cool Star Wars ships.
Yeah.
That I would want to play
that
as.
Flies an X-Wing.
Like
that's all I want to play as.
I don't know. I don't even know. Like there's a lot of really cool ships from like even if you're not a fan of the prequels, can we all agree that the Naboo ships are rad?
Yes, totally.
Now this is pod racing.
There is
put a pod racer in space. Put Sebulba in space.
Okay, I would play that game.
Sure.
But like,
and
but I mean, there's like so many cool ships, and people are so into Star Wars that they know all the ships.
My hope is that this game comes out and does really well. I mean, maybe it won't, but my hope is that it'll come out at a time when there's been enough time since the last movie. People are maybe like, well, we're not going to get more movies for a while. And I do like the spaceships. My hope is that it takes off and then they're like, okay, look, we had to do it. Here's the battle pass and here's the new ships.
We had to do it to them.
Yeah, exactly. I mean, Palpatine himself, because they totally should look, EA Motive
and cheeks.
Hire me to be a producer on this game. What we're going to do is we're going to put out the base game. We're going to put out a season of content that adds things like B-Wings and other Galactic Civil War.
So you don't want that ships. in the base? You don't want?
I mean, I would love to have it in the base, but
launch. Like,
but
come on, man.
That could be the pre-order DLC. Anyway,
oh my god! That stuff out. Spoken like a true EA.
Exactly.
Developer.
I'm saying. So then in spring or summer of 2021, we're going to put out the Clone Wars. It's like going to have all the Clone Wars ships. It's a big $30 expansion with a season of content for that. And then in a year after that, then we go put out the sequel movies and the ships from that. And you make that. It's probably a smaller expansion because there's not quite as many different ships in that. But put out the sequel ones. And then at that point, like, oh, High Republic's been around for a while. For the first time in a video game, we're going to start showing the ships in the High Republic and put those into Squadrons. Like, this could be a platform. You could make a lot of money on this, EA, and give the people what they want.
Hire Pat for that and hire me to produce a game where it's a restaurant sim and he plays Dexter Jetster.
I'll use my clout once I get in the door there to make that happen. Thank you.
Can Watto be the only employee?
No, but you've got the fun robot in the fun 50s robot in
Watto is a customer who comes back all the time. Like in that cafe management game from last year, I forgot the name of the mobile one. How they have the customers that come back all the time in Japan. It's not a cafe, it's a restaurant.
Fuck.
Jedi mind tips don't work on me.
Yeah, exactly.
Only money.
So you get like characters that Qui-Gon comes back all the time and Watto comes back all the time and you get their stories as they eat.
Are you thinking of Hungry Hearts?
Yes.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yeah,
but it's just Watto.
With just Dexter Jetster and Watto.
Or just Watto is the only customer in the whole game.
No, you gotta have Watto be the waiter, so you can say Jedi mind tips don't work on me, only money.
But that's
Jedis are like.
That's putting perfectly good droids out of business, and also, I will not stand for that.
There could be an upgrade mechanic with the droids where you put new things on them and then they're better. And also the gameplay should probably be like Cook Serve Delicious, but with Star Wars things.
Yeah, probably.
Honestly, I said that as a joke, but now I kind of want this game.
Right. Well,
look, if they can make Pokemon games about food, they can make Star Wars games about food.
Pokemon, you say? Well, you know what they can make Pokemon games about?
Fucking anything.
Is it 5v5? Is it 5v5 multiplayer battle action?
You know,
in space?
Heroes of the Storm?
No.
What if that but Pokemon?
Oh, that was such a weird. That stream started up at 8 a.m. my time, and I thought, hey, I'll get up and watch it.
I deserve Pokemon as a treat.
Yeah, I'm like, I like most Pokemon. Let's see what they offer. And it's like, of all the things that they had that you'd ask me, what is that going to be at that stream? Pokemon MOBA is like the furthest from what I would have guessed.
So they announced last week when they announced Pokemon Snap and Pokemon Smile, Pokemon Cafe. They're like, and next week on the 24th, we'll have another big announcement. And like last July, they announced that they were teaming up with Tencent. And I believe the studio that is making this. And if you had been like following closely, I could see how you might come to the conclusion, because the studio made like Arena of Valor and
Call of Duty
Mobile.
Both are good games, by the way.
Yeah, no, yeah. So that gives me some hope for this.
Yeah, I played some Arena of Valor again because I was looking for stuff to play on the bike that was not Xenoblade, because I was avoiding playing Xenoblade. And I played a few games of Arena of Valor. It's fun. It's well made. I think if Wild Rift is like that, that'll be fun for people, and with maybe more interesting characters. But
yeah. So Pokemon, it's Heroes of the Storm. That is their tact with Pokemon Unite. 5v5. You level up some abilities. You evolve as you level up, as you would expect with some Pokemon. It's a MOBA-ass MOBA.
I don't think it sounds like a terrible idea, but I'm also not going to play it.
It's not. I mean, it's not for us. It's not really for the American market.
I might give it a shot because I don't know. One of the big things that has kept me from a lot of MOBAs is the playing with other people aspect.
Sure.
But if this is kind of a more accessible MOBA that is hopefully, since it's a Nintendo game, like I'm assuming that the communication is going to be a little bit limited. I don't know, but just maybe something to at least just kind of dip my toes into.
I think it's a Nintendo game by virtue of Nintendo has such a high stake in like Pokemon,
right?
But it's coming to mobile too,
right? Yeah,
and you know how great the Nintendo games have been on mobile.
Well, we'll get to that after this, but it's mobile and Switch developed, right. And it's not through DNA or whoever it was that was making Mario Kart.
Right. I guess I just feel like when I look at something with Pokemon, I assume that they're aiming for a little bit more accessibility versus something like League or Dota. So, we'll see.
Well, they say easy to learn, hard to master. So.
Can I put a BKB on my Charizard?
Yeah, definitely.
I don't think it has items.
So I can't have a Daedalus?
I don't think you can have I don't think you can put
Runaan's Hurricane.
A fucking rapier on your.
Give Pikachu a Dagon.
Blink Dagger.
A Dagon is basically like a fucking taser.
Okay. Pikachu doesn't need that. Pikachu is the taser.
Pikachu is a living static shiv. So
yeah.
Exactly.
I want to point out that Twitter user @DavyBot on the night before tweeted, "I swear to God, if I wake up tomorrow to a Pokemon MOBA." That tweet got some circulation because it was funny. I think they probably had figured it out from what. I think there was probably some foresight there based on what you were saying, Andre. But yeah, I don't know. I'll play it. I like trying out new MOBAs. And the thing about it being on Switch that's exciting is they put out a pretty good version of Arena of Valor on Switch, but it was off patch from the mobile one, so it didn't have crossplay. And so it died like immediately. And they only updated it for like 6 months. And it is still on the store and you could still spend money on it, but it is not being worked on anymore. And there's no player base for it. But the only other MOBAs,
a lot of those.
Yeah. But it doesn't have a lot of MOBAs. It has Smite on it, which they did their best. And I think Smite is a phenomenal game. I'm a huge fan of it. They're doing an Avatar: The Last Airbender battle pass, which is pretty cool. Where you can make your Smite gods look like Avatar characters. They have a Bob Ross skin. But Smite on Switch... Smite on Switch is just clunky because it's just you would expect it to be. It's as functional as it can be, but it's not enjoyable to play really on that platform. So if they could come up with a good MOBA on Switch, that'd be awesome, because I'm somebody who really likes that genre and would love a really casual one that I don't have to spend a lot of time learning to lay in bed and play a game of before bed or whatever. And to take on trips and be able to get some of that gameplay on a trip or something. So yeah, I'm excited about it. I think it's a cool idea. The presentation was pretty bad, I thought, but it's not really the fault of the game.
Yeah, it's a lot of people in like remote locations and like translated voiceover and all that kind of stuff. It's difficult to show that kind of stuff, probably, especially if it's their first time. Like, I guess it's not. I don't. It's Game Freak's or the Pokemon, not even Game Freak. It's the Pokemon Company's first time kind of showing this type of game.
Yeah.
So I assume there's some challenges there. But all right. Well, let's see what else we got. Oh, well, yeah, Nintendo getting out of mobile game dev. They have determined that the mobile stuff has kind of been doing some harm to their brand image with like, people are just not having it with Mario Kart and things like that.
What was the Animal was it Pocket Camp that people were kind of...
Pocket Camp people seem actually into now.
Yeah, it wasn't
like part of that seems to be the success of New Horizons.
Right.
And they say they want to like investigate doing more stuff like New Horizons. It sounds like so more service game stuff.
Oh, Allison,
but
there's breaking news literally 7 seconds ago.
Oh,
I'm gonna send a link to our group chat, and I'm gonna ask for you guys to get your opinions on it. Sorry to interrupt the mobile thing, but we'll call attention to this later. So.
This is it?
What?
Okay.
Cool.
All right.
Yeah, that's weird. They're doing a custom wired Wavebird controller for the Switch.
It's just a GameCube controller.
Yeah.
It's not a Wavebird unless it's from the Wavebird region of France. Otherwise, it's just sparkling GameCube.
It's a sparkling GameCube controller, but they're also labeled with Mario and Luigi for some reason.
And they're also only $15.
Yeah, $15 is a really good price for a controller.
I feel like these aren't new. I feel like these have been a thing.
I'm pretty sure that they've had some.
I think these have been out for a while.
Really?
I think maybe they're just out for a while and they're only $15 now.
Yeah, they're just on sale right now.
Interesting. Either way, $15 for a controller.
These came out when like Smash came out, I think.
Yeah.
I think
okay,
right.
I must have missed that.
Pretty
My
sure.
bad.
Yeah.
Either way.
Damn, son.
But the mobile games that Nintendo put out were pretty universally bad.
Yeah. I tried a lot of them, and they were sure mobile games.
I played a lot of Magikarp Jump.
Oh God, I forgot that.
But I don't know if that wasn't a Nintendo one. That was a Pokemon Company one. So like Pokemon Company is still gonna make like Pokemon Cafe and stuff like that.
Yeah, that's true.
But Nintendo is not doing like more Mario stuff or Animal Crossing games or
what was the
whatever.
Fire Emblem one? I put like an hour into that.
Fire Emblem
Heroes?
Gotcha Houses.
Fire Emblem Heroes is I think what it was called.
Heroes? Okay.
It's called.
Sounds right.
Is that the... No, Warriors is the...
That's the Mosu game.
Yeah. But Heroes is the mobile one. You're right.
Muso game. Sorry, I said that.
Yeah.
Swap the vowels.
I didn't like that one at all.
Dragalia Lost. Remember Dragalia Lost, you guys?
No.
Was that Nintendo?
Yeah.
Yeah, it was.
Yeah.
Okay.
That was straight up Nintendo.
I bet they port that to Switch.
The only thing...
Is it on Switch?
I don't think so. It's... I remember last... like when I was using my Android phone before I got my iPhone, I would sometimes get updates for Dragalia Lost, but in Japanese, and it felt like they were just giving up on the English language.
Dragalia Lost.
The music for it slaps, though.
The year-on-year revenue dropped like it was down like 40% year over year from February to May 31st. Super Mario Run, similar, but that has no in-game stuff. Fire Emblem Heroes also down like maybe 10%, 20%. Animal Crossing Pocket Camp up like 40%. And then everything else is not Nintendo, but
remember
Miitomo? So it seems like
oh yeah!
We
oh
cannot
my
do
god!
this.
I haven't thought about Miitomo in a like.
Sorry, Tat.
No, it's fine. I'm not actually upset. It just makes me think of Tomodachi Life for some reason.
Tomodachi Life was good though.
It was good, and then I think of like Shaquille O'Neal and Tomodachi Life, and like and Alex Navarro going, "I'm Alex Navarro."
Oh god, that was so good.
All right.
Man, okay. Oh god, I am like now I'm just going down this rabbit hole where I'm gonna have to listen to Dragalia Lost music which is like
while playing Mitomo.
It's like the train it's like an anime. The train hit like a blade in the middle of the track, and we've split into multiple directions away.
Well, bringing us back,
The station.
Sam Barlow's got a new game.
Yeah, that Steam teaser
Coming
stuff is
out
cool
eventually.
as hell.
yeah, no, that looked cool.
I'm super excited for that.
Currently titled Project A. I don't know if they'll actually change that. There's a lot of redacted stuff here.
Yeah, I don't think that's the final name of the game. They're just teasing it in a weird way.
But hear me out. The first thing in the trailer, the first trailer on the Steam page, the first image looks like a snake. Seems like there's space in there for it to say Project Anaconda. So wasn't that the name of one of the Xboxes?
What if it's
so Sam Barlow's making the next Xbox? I get it.
Yes, yeah,
that's cool.
What if it's Project Annapurna, and it's just the Steam page for Stray, and he's actually doing Stray, but it's a full motion video game just with cats and robots. It's like Her Story, You're Telling Lies, but with cats and robots.
So it seems like it's going to be an FMV game like his previous works. The Steam page is a lot of redacted stuff. You get such gems as New, Sam Barlow, Half Mermaid, Cinema, Death.
It's worth mentioning Half Mermaid is the publisher, I believe.
Yes, that too.
So Half Mermaid does not necessarily refer to content in the game, because I looked and it might, I don't know, but Telling Lies was also published, I believe, by Half Mermaid.
Well,
no, that's wrong. I'm sorry.
Oh.
I'm sorry. That's incorrect. So it probably is a narrative thing, and then they've even made the publisher
maybe, yeah, that would be because no, Telling Lies, Her Story, that's a Half Mermaid Productions, Sam Barlow.
Okay. Never mind.
So that's his own thing.
That's his studio.
All right.
So
about this game, 1968 Gothic, 1971 NYC, 1999 Popstar, 2022 Barlow, Custodian, Concordance.
If it ends up being like some kind of weird spooky noir with like conspiracy theory stuff, like that is catnip to me. So and that's kind of what it looks like.
What I maybe I've actually not played either Telling Lies or Her Story.
They're good.
Her Story is exceptionally good. It is a fantastic game. I didn't play Telling Lies because I heard less good things about it, but her Story is excellent.
Any other thoughts on Project A?
Well, I guess we'll see.
What do you think the A stands for?
Project Annapurna, and it'll be about
Project Annapurna.
Stray.
I will say that in the similar to games you've played category, it's giving me Her Story and Alan Wake, which is an interesting. I don't know what is tying it to Alan Wake.
Probably thermoses, batteries, Verizon.
I'm not logged in on my browser on Steam, but for me it says Alan Wake, Ultra Despair Girls, and American Nightmare.
Those are
Europa Ultra Despair Girls.
Yeah,
those are quite intriguing comparisons. If there's some back end thing that they control that allows them to control the those options.
Mm-hmm. Well, Ultra Despair Girls is basically a first person shooter, so it's interesting.
Yeah. Well, moving on. Next. Oh wait, Allison, what do you think Project A is?
Gosh, I don't know.
What is the A?
I mean,
Project Allison.
Yeah. It's Project Avengers, actually. This is what the Avengers game actually is.
This is God, Sam Barlow's Avengers game. I'd want to play that.
Fuck.
Anyway, next.
Anyways, it looks pretty cool. Yeah.
Do we want to talk about that Avengers video? I
did not watch it, so I don't know.
I didn't watch it.
I'm significantly more interested in that game than I was. It looks so boring when you watch the footage without the UI up, but when you see the UI, you can tell there's a lot of like cooldowns and like stat numbers flying around, and it looks like it's a action game that has a lot of RPG elements. I mean, it looks like a Destiny, but
when they're trying to make it look cinematic, you're like, this kind of
looks like ass when it's trying to be cinematic to me. Like, not ass. It's a AAA video game. It has good visuals.
It looks like it looked kind of assy. Yeah.
Yeah. I don't know. I didn't think it looked good. I think if it is sort of in the same Squadrons vein, if it is ultimately the kind of thing, and we can assume pretty safely that this is what they're going to do, where you play through an 8-hour story campaign and then you have like 20 or so hours of multiplayer content to do with your friends, that is actually interesting, which it looked like it could be, because there's a lot of like character powers playing off each other and like team stuff and character builds matter and that kind of stuff. And then 3 months after launch, you get a season that's like, this is the season of Strange, and now Doctor Strange is in the game, and you get to play as him in a short single player story campaign, and then add him to your multiplayer games, and he adds another variable. That could be cool. I hope that's what it is, but I hope it actually feels good to play, because the jury's out on that. It looks like it could be terrible to play or really, really fun. It's just hard to know right now.
Yeah. How about Cyberpunk? Did anybody watch that?
I did.
Any thoughts? I haven't had a chance to watch it yet.
I'm still really, speaking of potentially problematic faves, I'm still really excited about that game. There's a lot of stuff that's coming out from people that are like there's 2 characters that have, I want to say, they're not Portuguese. They have names that mean left and right. And
just one always tell the truth and one always lies.
So their characters named left and right in Portuguese, but the character that means for right, they use the name or the word correct from the Portuguese language instead of the direction right. So like the names are fucked up because they don't have a native Portuguese speaker on their design team making those decisions. And it looks like there's a lot of those little things in there. Like there was there's a sign, like a neon sign that says HO, and then it has the Japanese characters read as Teru. So it's like Hoteru.
Yeah. Hoteru,
but why? What? That doesn't make any sense.
It's No, it does though. If you jump forward like 50 years from now, Japan, or like you'll get like mixed English.
This is what I mean by problematic faves. Is I will admit that it is also appropriative, and I would be totally fine with people saying we can't do this, we should stop doing this. In the same way as the Indiana Jones tropes, I fucking love the whole like street samurai person with a bunch of like implants running around with a katana and going into the ramen shop, and like all that shit is, I find it's cool looking. And I mean,
a lot of that is like, at least like culture wise, there's a lot of Asian culture influence in the States, like especially in big cities, like with Chinatowns and stuff. You can go to ramen shops, sushi shops, there, and
like in places like Seattle too, it's like that, which is where a lot of there have been authors who have had takes on Cyberpunk in a lot of West Coast cities, and I think that's where they get that influence. So I don't know.
It's not a new thing. Look at Big Hero 6. That is a major movie which takes that influence very directly.
I'll say
this is not the first or not the last that'll be like, hey, look at this like vaguely Asian culture to but not actually interacting with anything genuinely Japanese or Chinese or
so
from like
whatever.
Oh, sorry. The presentation in Cyberpunk that they did was good. The trailer was a little like, up to this point, the trailers have felt very like, I don't know, kind of impactful is maybe the wrong word, but you can
like
see
story stuff or
more
stuff?
Tonally, even the gameplay and story trailers, all the trailers that they have done so far have felt to me pretty serious, I guess is the way I would put it. And like a little bit on the heavy side, like you would expect from the developer of The Witcher, not without their like funny moments, but generally serious in tone. The trailer they put out for this thing is so weird. It is like, it makes it look like the actual gameplay parts look fantastic, and the visuals and the art direction and everything, but they chose this like a really bad song to go with it, and it's kind of like, at least I felt that way on one watch, and it almost looks like a movie trailer for like, oh, they're doing a Cyberpunk movie and I guess Matt Damon is in it. Okay. And like,
or Matt
like,
Damon's in this game?
No. I'm just trying to come up with the right tone of like a movie trailer that you watch and it's entirely forgettable. And it's like, oh, they're going to make a Cyberpunk movie, but like that doesn't have the impact it should, you know, of like, that looks boring. I'm not going to watch that. That's what this trailer, with the way it's edited and the music and stuff, came off to me as. It was not very good in my opinion. But then the larger gameplay stuff they got into is really good. I recommend checking out Paris, who does like a bunch of just different, he's been on Spawn on Me and stuff.
Vicious
696 on Twitter. His YouTube is I think it's just called Paris, but he had a really good impressions video that's about 40 minutes long. You can kind of skip around, where he talked about the whole demo that he played. And it sounds great. And a lot of that like more actual gameplay demo footage that they revealed is really cool.
I will say part of my reservations with him is he is already saying it is his game of the year before he even had like played that stuff. So there is like that.
Yes, that the reason I bring it up is because he's actually pretty critical of certain aspects of it in the video. To the extent where he was like, it's a lot more muted, I guess, than a lot of his former like, holy shit, this is incredible stuff. But it's still, I'm pretty excited based on what they showed. The thing that they showed that I'm very excited about is that game is a huge world. It has a map that is, its map is like similar to The Witcher 3 in terms of like scale and scope and stuff. It has,
and more vertical.
Yes, and it has big, dense city sequences for sure, but there are also times when you're like, I'm getting in my car and driving for 10 minutes across the map if you want to. I don't think that's not like, I'm not saying that it's going to be like, oh, you have to drive everywhere, but it seems like structurally it's closer to something like the way that Grand Theft Auto 5's map is laid out, where you have a big wide open area and then a dense city area. It seems like that's kind of more what they're going for with this game. Anyway, I'm excited for it. It looks excellent.
After the presentation, they also talked about Cyberpunk 2077 Edge Runners, which is a anime being put out by Studio Trigger. Which is pretty exciting because Studio Trigger.
I'm excited about that
because they made Promare and Little Witch Academia and Kill la Kill. So really good studio.
I'm psyched for that. They're also doing a comic book that I'm gonna pick up because that looks great too.
Oh no, we talked about the delay last week. I think they came out and said that maybe as part of that, we didn't discuss it though, is that like the DLC and multiplayer are also being delayed accordingly. So
I forgot it even had multiplayer.
Well, it won't at launch.
It's fine, I think. I don't know if it even will ever need that.
It depends on what it is, because maybe it'll be like a Netrunner game.
Could be. One thing they said to and from Paris's impressions, he talked about this, and they talked about this more in the presentation. It is definitely like a Deus Ex in the sense that it's like, you know, got its immersive sim elements and it's first person, but it is also very much an RPG. So like, it is still a game where if you make a character who is not good at using guns, then they might not necessarily be good at using guns. It is not a game that is like a shooter with some RPG stuff. It is still it sounds like it's more of an RPG even than The Witcher in terms of like the amount of stat concerns you have and the way you build your character. It's got a lot of that, like, do you want to be a smooth talker? Do you want to be a gun guy? Do you want to be stealthy? Do you want to be a hacker? Do you want to be, you know, whatever, which is really exciting to me. I think that's super cool.
Speaking of a number of stat concerns, seems like Microsoft might have had some stat concerns about one of their services.
Not anymore, they don't.
No, it's Facebook's problem now, baby.
Well, at least Facebook's good at solving problems.
Rather unexpectedly. As a shock to basically everyone involved, Mixer is being shut down, and basically everyone is being shuttled over to Facebook Gaming.
Dude, I think
why?
I remember sending you guys this message as it was happening. I was like, what? Because they just spent like $50 million on bringing Ninja and Shroud to the service, like what, 3 or 4 months ago?
Other people, and and presumably a big part of the idea was we'll get Ninja to play Halo, and just nobody came to Mixer with Shroud or Ninja.
I think, didn't we talk about that when Ninja went over?
Yeah.
We were like, we're like, good, yeah, bring him over there. Mixer's great. It's just the audience isn't going to care. Like the community at Mixer is just so small.
And it's gonna be even smaller when there's. So apparently there's gonna be some stuff where like maybe you can stick with the Mixer community and not integrate with the Facebook community. I don't know how this is all working, but
really, I didn't see that.
Ninja and Shroud will not be taking their communities to Facebook Gaming as they decided, hell no, you have to pay us out our full contracts now, and we're going back to Twitch. It's like, yo, you got like $30 million. Just tap out, man. Just let some other people like get big, get some money. You don't need it. Just sit the fuck down. You're set for life. Actually, go away. Just like go away. If people like Ninja, that's fine. People like Shroud. Shroud seems like a all right dude, I guess. I don't know.
Seems less shitty than Ninja potentially.
But like also, just sit the fuck down, or stand the fuck up and go outside. I don't know.
But Beam was a really amazing service.
Mm-hmm.
Like I was a Beam member for years and years and years.
Beam.pro?
Yep, Beam.pro. Yeah, that was what it was. You're right. And then when Microsoft bought Beam, it was a little bit like that community was pretty hesitant, but they're like, well, maybe this will be a good thing because maybe it'll get bigger and bigger and bigger. And then it never really got much bigger ever, even after adding Ninja and stuff. Like from what I heard, I didn't watch it as much then. It just never grew. And everything else did. YouTube gaming grew, Facebook gaming grew, Twitch grew. Because
people are already on Facebook, people are on YouTube, people are already going to Twitch.
Yeah, which is owned by Amazon.
Yeah,
so their Prime stuff carries over,
but people have been on there for so long, and like Mixer came late. Mixer's is owned by Microsoft, so like Amazon, Microsoft. You could make the argument that Amazon is worse, but still big corporations.
I mean, neither of them are good.
Microsoft is getting better, but
I mean more from the perspective of like selling facial recognition software to the DOJ and ICE and stuff like that. Like as a company, they do a lot of shady shit. They make a lot of military hardware now and stuff. So it's like, Xbox is certainly they've improved their image over time.
And Windows as well.
Yeah, for sure. But big corporations do bad things, turns out. That is a product of capitalism, and it is evil.
How dare you?
You criticize society, yet you live in one.
Exactly. I will say, if there's a fucking Facebook integration in Xbox and you have to I doubt they'll do this, but if you have to sign into Facebook to use your Xbox, I would definitely not buy a new Xbox.
That would be...
I think
everyone thought it was the Sega Series X. It was the Facebook Series X.
I think Larry Major Nelson came out and said that no, that will not be the case.
I would assume that would not happen, but Jeff Gerstmann was musing about it, and I was like, do not speak that into existence.
What if that was their supposed mic drop moment for their event next month?
Was what, to kill Mixer?
Facebook integration on the Series X.
I still think
system level. Gone are gamer tags. It's a real name Facebook integration.
So I don't think this is going to happen. I want to make that clear because this would be absolutely off the wall wild. But the thought did occur to me that was like, what if Microsoft bought Facebook?
That's not going to happen.
It's not going to happen. But what if that was like, they were like, Facebook board of directors wants to get rid of the Zuck real bad. Microsoft steps in, says, okay, we'll clean up your image, you know. Yeah. That would make a lot of this make more sense to me. But they also point,
I think they just want to get rid of Mixer. They're like, if this is not doing it.
Yeah, and a few people I've heard have pointed out that like they're not going to do a deal with Amazon because Amazon will likely be coming out with a streaming service soon. They're not going to do a deal with Google because Google has a streaming service. So the other big player in live streaming is Facebook. So that's fair. And they're not, Facebook is not a competitor to Microsoft in any real space. So
Microsoft owns LinkedIn, don't they?
Yeah, I don't know how much.
I know it's very dumb, but LinkedIn has its own streaming platform.
I don't think Microsoft wants to manage the streaming platform at all.
Yeah.
No.
What were you gonna say, Allison?
Oh, and I've never seen LinkedIn's streaming platform, but I assume it's
same.
Like
probably don't want to.
Probably like it's aiming for a very different demographic.
Yeah, I just wonder, like, are they gonna bring some of the Mixer technology there, like FTL?
Or stream PUBG on. Oh, stream FTL on LinkedIn.
No, not streaming FTL.
I was gonna say, I was like, oh, is this gonna help me with my job search? Like, hey, if you hire me for your job, cool. I look at how good I am at the Binding of Isaac.
And get partnered on LinkedIn.
I mean, if it would help me find a job in this market, like maybe I'd do
that.
That
is your job. Yeah. That is your job. You're streaming Binding of Isaac full time on LinkedIn.
Man. Imagine if you could get like emotes made and you can use those on posts in LinkedIn.
Oh God.
I could respond to them when salespeople try to sell me marketing software via LinkedIn. I will admit I had never heard of Facebook gaming prior to this announcement. It is apparently larger than Mixer has ever been, but I never heard of it.
I've heard of it purely because we use Restream for this podcast, and it is an option. So I looked at it and I said, "Fuck no." That's my knowledge of Facebook gaming, really.
I have heard of it. I've maybe seen some stuff like in like ads and stuff because I still go on Facebook because I'm an awful person who is stuck in social media. But it's so bad. Facebook's so bad.
Yeah, I don't log in. I just use Messenger to talk to people.
I use Facebook, but I also like don't respect myself for using Facebook.
I would love to. I should just delete my Facebook and make a Messenger only account for sure.
What do the kids use these days? Are they all about the TikTok?
TikTok. That's
TikTok.
Facebook is Boomerville. Twitter is where all the millennials go to doom scroll, and TikTok is the place for the kids.
The Zoomers.
What's Okay, so there's no more Vine, right? That's dead.
It's coming back.
Is it?
But like the spirit of Vine is
kind of
in TikTok.
Isn't it Byte is back, so
you're right. It already came back, so it'll be dead soon because I haven't heard anyone talk about it since it launched.
Sponsored by Barks, so they can say Barks has Byte. But I'm trying to think of other social media platforms, and I can't really think of them other
Mastodon,
than like your Instagram and MySpace and all that shit. But I don't know, man.
The Byte website has not had anything new since May 18th.
Wow.
In the what's new section.
Cool.
So
it's happening.
Anyways, they're making Mixer partners sign NDAs if they choose to move over to Facebook gaming, which is fucking wild.
NDAs about what?
Right.
I don't know. Nobody knows.
Like
they're NDA'd.
Exactly.
Like, I know that Twitch partners are technically NDA'd about the terms of their agreements.
Mm-hmm.
Like they aren't supposed to share like, oh, per subscriber I get this % of whatever money back, blah blah blah.
And maybe that's all it is. I don't know. I saw some people saying that it seemed odd to them that they were being asked to sign NDAs.
Yeah, because it sounded like everyone was being asked to do that. Maybe I'm wrong, but it sounded like everyone, even those who weren't partnered or anything.
Oh yeah, I don't know about that. It may have just been if you set up monetization on your channel, even if you're not partnered.
Well. Lucky for Twitch that Shroud and Ninja are coming back because once again, Dr. Disrespect has been banned.
Fuck that guy. So good.
That's not a surprise.
been a lot of scuttlebutt around this one. No one knows what happened. Is supposedly permanent, as some sources are saying. Neither Twitch nor Dr. Disrespect have said anything.
If it's as bad as people are making it sound, it's awful that he did whatever he did to someone to deserve that. But he's been a problem for a very long time.
Oh, yes.
Yeah, this is
unbelievable that it took this long to get him removed.
Well, I mean,
yes.
For those who might not have context, the previous ban, I believe, was because he was filming someone in a bathroom and live streaming it.
He went in, I saw the video. He went into a bathroom at E3 last year and live streamed like without anyone's consent, and there were minors in the bathroom. Like it was, and you didn't see anything explicit on the stream, but it was disgusting.
Yeah, and
right,
also, oh, sorry, Allison.
Oh, just and something that like Twitch very clearly needs to say, hey, this is not acceptable. Yeah. So it's good that they like plan and they took action then, but this kind of more permanent action feels very long time coming.
Yeah, like but another thing he did was he very openly cheated on his wife and then turned it into this whole thing and like makes him seem like kind of a shit human. But there's been suspicion. I don't like commenting on suspicion because it's suspicion, but that whatever happened for this permanent ban, might have been more criminal.
Yeah. And
yeah, there was some people are like dissecting the like last 10 minutes of his previous stream. He said like some weird stuff. He's like, "Oh, we're gonna get through this together." Looking at his phone.
Hopefully,
I don't know,
whatever
he normally do.
I hope whatever he did isn't actually tied to the current wave of allegations. And if it's criminal, it's not something that physically harmed or emotionally harmed someone. Hopefully,
tax evasion.
Hopefully he did some kind of like fraud or something. But I'll say even those major incidents of him, the him cheating on his wife and having his tearful apology and then coming back to the biggest streaming numbers the platform had ever seen like a month later, which was bullshit, was bad enough. And then the bathroom streaming thing was awful. In between there, he has been consistently racist and sexist on his channel the entire time. He would make fun of Chinese hackers in PUBG by using extremely racist tropes and accents. He's made fun of people, as far as I know, from lots of different cultures and societies in really shitty ways, and his community eats it up, and Twitch really should have done something about him a long time ago. Instead, they signed him to a huge exclusive contract. So like that was one of my biggest frustrations with the platform. So I'm glad he's gone. I hope he didn't hurt anyone.
All their contracts are exclusive, but
well, that's true. But Twitch
is giant, like huge contract.
Yeah, he got a lot of money though.
Yeah, Twitch has been pretty problematic about that kind of stuff for a long time, where big names, quote unquote, like that they have
get away with so much.
Yeah, like they can get away with a lot of shit that they just don't tolerate for the smaller streamers. Like for people who maybe they are partnered but only have like 2,000 subscribers versus these big boys and girls like I don't even remember the name of the girl who basically abused her cat on stream and then like they didn't do anything about it. Like stuff like that.
Threw the cat over her head,
yeah, and like other stuff. Same streamer, and like really toxic behaviors and all this stuff that they don't tolerate for the smaller ones, but because the big ones bring in lots of views and lots of bucks, they tolerate it, and it's shit.
They also pretty categorically show more lenient, like they're harsher on women typically, which is part of why that situation was like even more political and weird with Alinity is the name of that streamer. Right. Because they do not evenly apply. It's both audience size, and then they also tend to have harsher to come down harder on women than they do on men for a lot of different things. And so as a platform, their moderation is uneven and bad. Hopefully, this current wave, a lot of the allegations we talked about earlier in the show, there are a lot of those leveled at streamers on the platform. So hopefully that has an effect as well, and their moderation becomes more even and just better all around. Because they certainly have a responsibility to moderate their community and make it a safe space for people, which they are not doing currently. So I would love to see that change.
Well, that's going to bring us to our last story then. Unless anyone has any final, the most important,
the biggest
one.
news
Tokyo Game Show Online 2020 set for September 23rd to 27th. It is not clear at all looking at the Tokyo Game Show website what this actually is going to be. It'll probably be some like streams or something, maybe some demos. Probably just some streams though. I don't know.
TGS is purely a fan event, right? Like it's not really.
No, it's it's mostly a Japan event. But there are fan days and there are press days.
Okay, so they do.
I believe.
Okay.
I believe.
So it's more like a. Is it more like a PAX or is it more like an E3?
It's more like an E3, I believe.
Okay.
Because there's no cosplay, or there might be some, but I believe it's more like a. I believe it's more like an E3 than a PAX.
Yeah. I know like 10 years ago was definitely an industry event. I just didn't know what it was these days.
One interesting thing that I would hope we'll start to see in these later in the year events, TGS is maybe not the one from an infrastructure and location perspective, but in reading the Cyberpunk coverage, one of the things that's interesting is they streamed that game to press checking it out.
GeForce Now.
Yeah, they didn't provide builds, which
that's good.
Of course they wouldn't. That would be wild. Which Paris in his reaction video kind of said like the latency and the streaming stuff made it harder to really get a feel for a lot of the gameplay. But it would be cool if some AAA developers, like we had the Steam Summer Games Fest, which was awesome from the perspective of highlighting indies who are offering demos. It would be cool if there was a way to stream demos of indies and larger games that maybe have sort of like the sort of demos that would show up at a TGS. I think that could be really awesome.
I think right now it would be so difficult because, if you're doing it across GeForce Now, maybe it makes it a bit easier, but like doing it like what they did with the Summer Games Fest, actually doing it the GeForce Now way is the only way that makes sense because you don't want to be like QA testing a demo for like a million different configurations.
Of course. Yeah. You would have to do it.
GeForce Now would be a way to make this actually work.
Right. That's what I mean. Cause you would have to be able to stream it from a box that's going to run it based on the parameters that you're setting.
You can know this is exactly how it's going to run.
Getting the infrastructure set up is the challenging part, I think. So like having hundreds and hundreds of thousands of people hit a server to play a demo would be rough, but if they could partner with someone like Stadia or xCloud or something to kind of build that infrastructure out, I think that could be a really cool way, because I don't even know if by next E3 we're going to be able to pack tens of thousands of people in a convention center. And it would be interesting down the road to see that as an option.
And that was one of the promises of Stadia was, you're watching a YouTube video, then you can click and play a demo.
Yeah.
Right from the video.
Yeah, there's a lot of promises with Stadia. But maybe they'll use that fog computing, whatever they called it.
Fog where all gaming, the Sega.
Yeah. The Sega network of arcade machines.
Yep.
They'll use Riot's
at home or something.
They'll use Riot's internet that they made.
Private internet. All right. Well,
whatever that spyware thing was that they installed in your kernel. What was it called?
Vanguard.
Thank you. I actually forgot.
More like car phalanx, am I right?
What?
Car phalanx. It's 1:30 a.m. here, people.
I'm broken. I have plans in an hour and a half that are important, but I'm going to just be a shattered shell now.
Well, lucky for you, we can end this podcast. Episode 127, is that where we're at? 127, right? Yeah.
Yep.
Thanks for joining me, everybody. You can find us on Twitter at Fixed Podcasts, and you can head over to fix.space to find the podcast on your podcast platform of choice, or go to podchaser.com/gamingfix to leave us a review. We'd really appreciate it. You can find me, Andre Cole, aka your partner's favorite onomatopoeia, on Twitter at Coolslaw, COOLSL4W. Pat, where can people find you?
I'm developing a kernel access podcasting software called Car Guard or Car Phalanx. And you can find me on Twitter at PJC Plays.
Alex, where can people find you?
You can find me performing Swift Whinnies just all the time.
As to be expected.
Allison?
You can find me on Twitter at WRITERSERENYTY.
Thanks for joining me, everybody.
Yeah.
Thanks for having me.
Bye.
Why was that? Why'd you gotta be weird about that one?
I don't know. It was really awkward for some reason.
I started thinking about names for Allison and I's Phantom Menace stream.
I will legitimately do that with you.
We'll see.
Let's do it.
Continue.
Well,
yes.
Hopefully we'll have a spoiler cast next week sometime.
Yeah.
About Phantom Menace or Last of Us 2?
Oh, we should have a Phantom Menace spoiler cast. I would do that. Oh my god.
You won't believe what happens with Darth Maul.
What if there's like a musical chairs kind of thing, and we like every so often on a random time we have to switch between talking about The Last of Us Part 2 and the Phantom Menace.
God,
He's gonna want to die if we do that.
For 6 hours discussing both at length.
I'm gonna close this call now.
Okay.
Goodbye, everyone.
Goodbye, everybody.
Bye.
Thank you for joining us. So long.